Chapter 406. Sing Kong did not answer Jun Ling's question directly. He suddenly looked up at the night sky. It was pitch black and there were no stars, but Sing Kang's eyes seemed to flicker with light. After a long time, he let out a long sigh. Actually, Professor Yang's question is very good. Why has it been dormant for more than 20 years, and why hasn't it hatched a fourth time? The reason is simple. It's because Madison has almost no resources for it to absorb. For example, the God's Stone that you have guarded for generations has long been sucked clean by it. What about psionic energy? Ding Meng could not help but ask. Sing Kong sighed. It already has the ability to absorb psionic energy. If it continues to absorb psionic energy, the result will be very simple. It will either become a psionic monster or become stronger. But no matter how it changes, it will not be able to achieve the effect of evolution. You have to understand that the ultimate goal of the mother body is to evolve into a higher life form through incubation and metamorphosis. The conditions required for each evolution are different, and the conditions are getting more and more difficult. It's the same principle as us psionicists advancing. This principle was actually very easy to understand. For example, if a warrior continued to absorb energy, at most his foundation would be strengthened, but he would never be able to break out of the warrior category. If he wanted to become a warrior, he would need the corresponding martial arts, secret manuals, and scriptures. Of course, Ding Meng's Diamond Astral Technique was a special case. If the Diamond Astral Technique was replaced with Heat Source Art or Blazing Star Technique, Ding Meng would still be a warrior in the eyes of others. At most, he would be a very powerful advanced warrior. Junling said, I understand now. The mother body has not contaminated our last prairie, nor has it attacked Health Town, because there are resources it needs here? Sing Kong nodded. You're right this time. But I've been curious for the past 2 years. Health Town is just a palm-sized place. What is it that the mother body wants? There are no resources, no starships, and nothing else. If there is something, it would be your people and the disabled psionicists who have been coming to Health Town over the years. Yang Wei said, If you say that the mother body wants these people, I won't believe it even if you beat me to death. Sing Kong said word by word, The mother isn't interested in these people, but their fighting spirit? Battle intent? Everyone was curious. Sing Kong nodded and said, You've all fought in the endless forest. You were especially fierce and brutal during the battle. The monsters are the same. After killing for a long time, do you feel that your own hostility is especially strong? Especially belligerent, especially angry, especially violent, especially bloodthirsty. Not to mention Jun Ling and the others, they had long been accustomed to this feeling. Even Ding Meng had a deep understanding of it. When he saw Xiao Shanzi's body on planet KV-303, he really had the urge to destroy everything. He could not wait to cut all the members of the extreme pirate troop into pieces and swallow them alive. Sing Kang's words were shocking again. All the fighting spirit that you and the monsters produced formed a very negative and violent emotion, and the mother relied on devouring your emotions to secretly carry out the fourth incubation. As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked, confused, and calm. The person who was shocked was Yang Wei. He was a biology expert, so he naturally understood this. The confused people were definitely elephant and leopard. This was the first time they heard that emotions could be devoured and evolved after being devoured. The person who was calm was naturally Ding Meng. When he was at Starlight University, Principal Zhu Bin had already proposed this theory, but he had never seen such an example in the real world. Now that Sing Kong had brought it up, he still found it hard to believe. Sing Kong said, I didn't believe it at first, but I gradually believed it. Ding Meng suddenly said, On the one hand, Health Town attracted disabled psionicists to come here. On the other hand, you constantly perfected your bone armor technology, installed prosthetic limbs for everyone, and let them fight here. Finally, your guess was confirmed. Sing Kong said, humans are different from machines. Machines don't have emotions, but humans do. Human emotions can infect others. The locals are warlike and bloodthirsty, so over time, they will naturally develop a murderous aura. It's the same for psionicists. The angrier they are, the more bloodthirsty they become. The more they kill, the angrier they become. In the long run, they will be no different from a homicidal maniac. Yang Wei seemed to understand something. What if Health Town was a peaceful environment where everyone helped each other? Xing Kong replied coldly, then we would have been destroyed long ago. Jun Ling still did not quite believe it. Professor, why are you so sure that the mother is devouring our emotions? Xing Kong said, don't you think it's strange? Every time you go out to hunt, the number of monsters you encounter is the same? Every 3 to 5 days, do you feel that you can't sit still and have nothing to do? Do you have to go out and kill monsters? Every year in the big hunt, the number of monsters is the same as the number of people we send. The reason why Health Town hasn't fallen is that the mother will never allow it to be completely destroyed. It needs you to keep fighting and dying so that it can have a steady stream of energy to absorb. He sighed again. Relying on devouring the emotions of creatures to hatch, I really can't imagine what kind of existence it will be after its 4th evolution. Yang Wei admitted defeat for the first time. Xing Kong, you're a mechanic, but your knowledge of biology makes me, a so-called biological expert, feel ashamed. Ding Meng's voice turned cold. Professor, when did you discover this secret? Xing Kong said, I only discovered it 5 years after I came here. But fortunately, devouring emotions is an extremely slow process. I speculate that it will take decades for it to hatch. Ding Meng stared at him. The question is, since you've discovered the mother's secret, why are you still absorbing outsiders, making bone armor, and organizing activities like the big hunt to encourage everyone to fight? Isn't this accelerating the formation of the mother? I knew you would ask this question. Xing Kong sighed. He turned his head and looked at the starship in the distance. If you looked closely at his eyes, you would find that there was a trace of sadness in his eyes. When I was sent to Madison, I thought that I would only need to stay for a few years before I could be repatriated and reunite with my family. But in the 3rd year, my wife and daughters died. All of them died. Ding Meng was stunned. What happened? Xing Kong gritted his teeth and said, they were killed by someone. After they died, they were burned clean. Not even their ashes were left behind. My eldest daughter was only 9 years old at the time, and my youngest daughter was only 3 years old. If they could live to this day, they would be like you, healthy and lively young people. Perhaps they could even become psionicists, but his tone was full of pain, and he couldn't continue speaking. Ding Meng also gritted his teeth. Who is so vicious that they even want to kill children? Yang Wei sighed. I'm afraid it's the Golden Shield Alliance. Maybe it's that Gao Sunday, Xing Kong said. Gao Sun's son is also a mechanical authority. The higher-ups felt that they no longer needed me, so his son replaced me. Ding Meng said, but there's no need to be so ruthless, right? They could have just let you go. Is there a need to kill your family? Xing Kong shook his head. You've lived here since you were young and have never come into contact with the outside world. You don't understand the real human world. The most complicated and terrifying creatures in the universe are humans. They are far more terrifying than the mother on this planet. There must be a deeper reason for this, but Xing Kong was unwilling to say it. Ding Meng said, then how did you find out about this? Xing Kong sighed. Every year, Old Du came personally to the big hunt. Old Du and I were friends when he was alive. He secretly revealed to me that Gao Sun's family was the murderer of my wife and daughter. But this year, it was a different person. If I'm not wrong, Old Du is also dead, Ding Meng sighed. I understand. Old Du is working with you. Every time he goes back, He deliberately uploads fake news, saying that the mother is slowly preparing for the 4th and 5th incubation to buy you time. Xing Kong nodded. That's right. That Gao's son has always been in charge of the mother project. When the so-called 5th incubation time comes, he will definitely come here personally. If he really has the ability to take the mother away, do you think they will take me away? Ding Meng and the others lowered their heads. When Gao's son arrived, it would be the day of Xing Kang's death. Xing Kong suddenly sneered. But it's not that simple to kill me. Since they want to obtain the mother so much, then fine. I'll let the mother grow strong and see what it will become after its 4th evolution. Gao's son and the others think they can control this alien creature. They must be dreaming. Yang Wei exclaimed, if you do this, not only will you kill everyone here, but I estimate that even Madison's star will be destroyed. Xing Kong sneered even more. Yes, I want everyone to die. I'm not a match for Gao's son, but I think Gao's son is a match for the mother. I can't take revenge with my own hands, but the mother can avenge me. Anyway, I'm going to die anyway. I don't mind dragging a group of people down with me. You son of AB***, TCH. Yang Wei was furious. You said I'm crazy? You're the one who's crazy. You're the one who's really crazy. It's the same whether I'm crazy or not. Xing Kong regained his calmness, his expression indifferent. Ding Meng sighed. He could understand Xing Kang's mentality. His only family and friends had been killed, but he could not take revenge. Even if he had the chance to take revenge, he was not a match for the other party. Although Xing Kong was still alive, his heart was dead. He no longer had any worries or solace. His last hope was that the 4th incubation day would come early so that the mother could kill Gao's son and the others. Of course, he would not be able to escape death. Since he was going to die anyway, he might as well be crazy and let the mother form quickly. As for whether the mother could carry out the 5th incubation in the future, crossing the stars with its physical body and destroying humans with one hand, that had nothing to do with him. Chapter 407. Ding Meng muttered, unfortunately, the mother body doesn't seem to be able to deal with these 3 starships. Xing Kong sneered, you're too naive. If the mother body was really defeated by these 3 ships, it would have been destroyed many years ago. It wouldn't be able to survive until now. At this moment, many soldiers walked down from the 3 starships. At the same time, more than 10 large engineering vehicles and drilling robots came down. It looked like they were preparing to dive into the pool to find the mother body. In the open space, Gao's son and Ming Bang were commanding everyone. Where are the 2 professors? Gao's son asked without batting an eyelid. Ming Bang said, they were here just now. I don't know where they're hiding now. Gao's son said, after this is over, it's best to take them with you when you leave. He said take them with him, not pick them up. Ming Bang understood what he meant. If the mother body was in their hands, then there was no need for Yang Wei and Xing Kong to exist. This had always been the Alliance's way of doing things. People who had no value to them could just die. However, Ming Bang was still hesitant. Boss, Professor Zeng's bone armor technology is quite good. Gao's son sneered, what era are we in now? Is there still a need for bone armor? It's only because this small planet is too remote and its technology is outdated that bone armor can be used. Have you seen anyone else in the divine battlefield wearing bone armor? Ming Bang said, but we can't give up on Professor Yang's genetic modification. I've already seen the genetic warriors he modified. They're quite powerful. Gao's son laughed again, you're thinking too much. No matter how good his technology is, can it be better than our Alliance's top experts? Okay. Ming Bang knew that persuasion was useless, so he just shut up. At this moment, the earth began to tremble slightly again. Gao's son frowned. What's happening? That's not right. Xing Jia was also puzzled. Hasn't the nest been suppressed? Ming Bang's expression changed again. Not good. Rumble. 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 The earth shook violently like before, and this time, the shaking was much stronger. Not only were people unable to stand still, even the engineering vehicles nearby were shaken. Gao's son decisively ordered, "Go back. Everyone, get on the ship and prepare to take off." As soon as he finished speaking, the ground was torn apart with a rumbling sound, revealing a sinister hole. The hole was obviously irregular in shape, but it was about the size of a pool. Moreover, there were 10 holes in the vicinity. Many soldiers did not retreat and directly fell into the hole. It was not until 5 seconds later that they let out tragic cries. One could imagine how deep the hole was, and it seemed like more monsters were about to come out. The starship of the Golden Shield Alliance now knew how powerful the monsters on planet Madison were. This time, the connecting cabins were still outside and had not completely retracted back into the starship, but the engine of the starship started to spew fire. It could not wait to take off. The 10 holes on the ground suddenly lit up. The light gradually became brighter and brighter, as if 10 strange ghost eyes had opened. Ding Meng had a deep impression of this scene. The ghost eyes of divine light technology under the Thorn Planet was very similar to this. Suddenly, countless monsters burst out from the hole. Even though everyone was mentally prepared, the scene in front of them once again gave them a new level of horror. This time, the monsters that burst out were not strange fire lizards, but a kind of monkey-like creature. They were very small, so there was a huge number of them. The sight of 10 holes shooting out at the same time was even more spectacular than the fairy scattering flowers of the starship's cannons. These little monkeys were covered in a silvery white coating. They were completely shiny and glowing silver monkeys. Xiao AI immediately reported, "This is a new type of bone material. We can't analyze the specific data for now." The monkeys squeaked as they were shot into the air. They each held a thin and sharp bone spear in their hands and threw it at the huge starship. These bone spears were also silvery white in color, and there seemed to be white ropes tied to their tails. Everyone knew that these ropes were not ordinary hemp rope. They must have been made of high-grade bone materials. In just an instant, the starship's steel plate was densely packed with bone spears. The density of the spears made one's hair stand on end. After landing, the monkeys screamed in groups of 3 to 5 and pulled at the ropes as if they were in a tug-of-war. This scene was as funny as mayflies trying to shake a tree. The starship was such a heavy object. It was a fool's dream to use such primitive bone spears to challenge an advanced technological product. However, Ding Meng and the others could not laugh. This was because they saw that the starship was still slowly rising into the air at first, but as the number of monkeys increased, the starship on the far left slowed down significantly. When the monkeys pulled hard, the starship trembled slightly. The most terrifying thing was that the holes in the ground spat out monkeys like crazy. The ground could not hold these monsters anymore. Many of the monkeys climbed up the ropes to the starship. It was as if thousands of monkey skewers had been erected on the ground. Jun Ling and the other locals might not have been too shocked, but Yang Wei was dumbfounded. What the f***ck? If someone had told me that a starship could be pulled down with a rope, I would have definitely thought that person was crazy. What about now? Sing Kong glanced at him. Yang Wei seemed to be pulling his own hair. He's not crazy. I'm the crazy one. I've already gone crazy several times today. This kind of scene indeed refreshed everyone's understanding of the monsters again and again. However, Gao's son and the others could not let the monkeys cause trouble. The starship's engine at the bottom of the starship went into full operation, spewing out countless blue crystal flames. The real monkey skewers were born, but the firepower was a little too strong. Thousands of monkey skewers were broken in an instant. Not only were they burnt in an instant, but the skewers were also burnt to a crisp. Gao's son was also experienced. He commanded the 3 starships to form a triangular formation and turned on all their weapon systems. Then, they used crossfire to fire at each other. below each other, cannons, energy beams, and particle laser cannons started a new round of cleaning. Previously, the ground was illuminated, but now, the ground and the air were filled with light. It was as if the ground was the control panel, and the bombardment of firepower was the generated light curtain. The starship's firepower was also fierce and powerful, but this time, the effect was not as spectacular as before. There were too many monkeys spewing out of the hole, so many that it was numbing. In the eyes of Ding Meng and the others, even if these silver monkeys did not attack and just lay motionless on the ground for them to kill, the starships would not be able to kill them all even if they used all their firepower. The mother body was more powerful than the water droplets in that it was full in quantity. The hole was still spewing out, and the number of monkeys was still increasing. The weapons of the 3 starships were simply too busy. However, the number of monkey meat skewers had increased to over 10,000. Countless monkeys were constantly pulling and climbing the skewers. The leftmost starship was really pulled by these monkeys. It hovered in the air as if it was trying to rise. At this time, it would be strange if Gao's son could still sit still. He decisively ordered, "Flight team, move out. Kill all these trash." A large number of armored soldiers spewing out crystal flames immediately floated out of the side openings of the 3 starships. Hundreds of soldiers armed with various energy weapons aimed at the monkeys on the ropes and began to strangle them. Previously, the firepower of the ships might not have had much of an effect, but now, the attacks of the energy guns and pulse guns let everyone know how powerful they were. The monkeys with the bone armor plating on their bodies could actually withstand the bombardment of at least 5 cannonballs. Only when the bone armor plating was shattered could the subsequent firepower cause real damage to the monkeys. However, the firepower of these hundreds of people was really not even a drizzle in the face of hundreds of thousands of monsters. The gunfire only lasted for 1 round before it was extinguished. Although the monkey on the top of the rope was killed or crippled, and fell down and smashed a lot of other monkeys, the monkeys behind it did not nail the starships anymore. Instead, they threw their bone spears at the flying unit. The firepower of these 10,000 spears was much stronger than the energy guns. Although the bone spears could not penetrate the armor in one go, they could not withstand the large number of monsters. Moreover, the bone spears were as dense as a storm. No matter how one dodged, it was useless. Many soldiers were nailed by the bone spears and then pulled down. Everyone could clearly see the result of being pulled down. Before the person landed in the air, dozens of monkeys leaped up and nailed the person like leeches. In the blink of an eye, the person was gnawed until not even his bones were left. Jun Ling and the others had seen how powerful the monsters were, but this was the first time they had seen such ferocious monsters. Even the brave and fearless elephant could not help but gulp. He also felt a sense of fear. The number of monsters was really so many that it made one feel despair. From the starship's point of view, the group of monkeys below was white and connected together as if they were squirming. This scene was like the eerie white bones in the depths of hell. If hell really existed in this world, then this place was undoubtedly it. At this time, the starships on the left and right began to shake. The most terrible thing was that the monkeys had already climbed up the starships. These monkeys were abnormally agile and vigorous. They climbed along the outer walls of the starships. Most of them climbed to the top and stretched out their fists to smash the steel plates. It was naturally impossible for the alloy steel plates to be smashed like this. On the contrary, the monkeys' fists were smashed into a bloody mess. However, they were not afraid at all. Without their fists, they opened their mouths and used their fangs to gnaw. If their teeth were broken, they used their heads to smash. After a few hits, their brains burst and their corpses naturally fell to the ground. However, the monkeys behind continued to smash, gnaw, and smash. They advanced wave after wave in an endless stream. It was not an exaggeration to describe such a suicidal combat style as crazy. After the starship persevered for about 10 minutes, many of the steel plates on the outer walls began to deform. The main reason was that the blood of the monsters had an extremely strong corrosive effect. Looking at the hellish scene full of silver monkeys, Ding Meng could not help but sigh. Is this what it means when there are too many ants biting an elephant? The elephant suddenly sneezed. Jun Ling glared at him. What? Nothing. The elephant shivered. I'm a little cold. Chapter 408. The hole was still spewing monsters, but the starship on the left could no longer hold on. The monsters had already torn a small hole in the radar area at the top of the starship. Just this one hole was enough. Countless monkeys howled as they drilled into the hole. It was obvious what the situation inside the starship was like. The starship could definitely hold on for a while, but could it hold on forever? As the monkey army on the ground worked together, the starships on the left and right were pulled down by the monsters in the most primitive way. The starship on the left was the most damaged, wobbling as it crashed to the ground. The starship on the right was not much better. Although there was no hole in the outer wall, the starship was still falling bit by bit. Suddenly, a light appeared in the dark sky. A crack opened, and the stars in the galaxy could be seen clearly. Oh no! Sing Kang's expression changed. It's a short-distance space transmission. Damn bastards! Gao Sun could not sit still and wait for death. The starship in the center he was in had suffered the least damage. Now that the other two starships had fallen to the ground, he had to abandon his companions and run. Short-distance space transmission could not cross the long space and time like the space jump system, but it could instantly transfer a starship to a safe zone in the nearest star system. As long as there was an interstellar map, it could be located. Sing Kong did not take this into account. He had overestimated Gao Sun's determination to fight, and he did not expect this starship to have extra energy for transmission. As the crack in the sky grew bigger and bigger, the starship flew in. As soon as it went in, the crack disappeared with a whoosh. On the ground, the original appearance of the two huge starships could no longer be seen. They had been completely submerged by the monkeys, and had now become a mountain of monkeys. Ding Meng could hear the continuous screams from inside the starships very clearly. As the auras of many humans were cut off, the last resistance of the starships was gradually disappearing. Suddenly, two golden pupils appeared. Countless monkeys were melted into the pupils and turned into nothingness. The pupils expanded in the blink of an eye, and Yang Wei's expression changed. Everyone, get down! As soon as his voice fell, two earth-shattering explosions rang out. The radiant pupil burst open, and like a water ball, it shot out countless energy torrents in all directions. There was only a snow-white world before everyone's eyes. They could not see anything else at all. In the next moment, a powerful shockwave came crashing down, sweeping up countless sand and rocks, completely flattening the stony plain. After a long time, Ding Meng came out of the sand and pulled everyone out one by one. Yang Wei, who was covered in dust, looked at the scene in front of him. What happened? What else could have happened? When the last survivors of the two starships saw that they couldn't save themselves, they simply activated the starship's self-destruction system and blew themselves up. Now, the stony plain had returned to darkness and tranquility. The Silver Monkey Army was blown to smithereens, and not a single wreckage of the starships was left. They were all melted. The ground was empty, and the stony plain was frighteningly empty. If it were not for the 10 gloomy holes on the ground, no one would dare to believe what had just happened. He actually escaped. Zinkong was furious. This was what he cared about the most. They will definitely come back. Jun Ling looked at the hole. Before they come back, we can find the mother first and wait for an opportunity to destroy it. Are you crazy too? Yang Wei exclaimed. You saw it just now. Even the starships can't deal with it. How can you destroy it with just the few of you? Jun Ling ignored him and turned to Zinkong. Professor, didn't you want to take revenge on that guy? Destroying their years of hard work, you have achieved one of your wishes. This was an invitation to Zinkong. Kong did not refute Junling. The mother has created so many monsters. It should be much weaker. There is indeed a possibility of destroying it. Junling walked towards Ding Meng and looked at him with a pair of blue eyes. There was a hint of expectation in his eyes. Ding Meng, can you help? We need your help very much. Ding Meng really wanted to say no. His thoughts were the same as Yang Wei's. Such a terrifying monster. Instead of taking advantage of this opportunity to escape, you still wanted to find it and try to destroy it. Other than being crazy, there was no other reason or motive for you to do this. Well, even if the mother's strength has weakened after creating a large number of monsters, do you know its depth? Is its current strength something that everyone can deal with? These were all unknowns. Attacking rashly without knowing the enemy's situation was a taboo for military strategists. I suggest we follow and take a look, Xiao Ai said. Why? Ding Meng was stunned. Xiao Ai said, the pendant on her should be related to Xinguang technology. When the monster army appeared just now, I also detected all kinds of similar fluctuations among the monsters. Although it was very faint, I am sure that it is the same kind of fluctuation as her pendant. Ding Meng frowned. But what does this have to do with me? Xiao Ai sighed. Xinguang technology is very important to us now. If you get in touch with it more, you might be able to master it. As long as you discover the trick, we will know more ways to restore Little Rascal. Even if we can't find a way, at least we will be a big step closer to Little Rascal. I have a feeling that since Little Rascal is the soul of a great god-level civilization, it will not die so easily. It seems like she has always been by our side. At the mention of Little Rascal, Ding Meng's heart became firm. His life was given to him by Little Rascal. As long as he could get Little Rascal back, he could overcome any difficulties. He was willing to brave even the most dangerous environment. Even if there was only a slight possibility, he would not hesitate to give up his life. Okay. I will go with you, Ding Meng answered in a deep voice. The eyes of Junling and the others immediately lit up. With Ding Meng joining them, there was no doubt that it would be safer. For this group of locals, the greatest wish of their lives was to defeat this monster and restore Madison to the beautiful scenery of blue skies and white clouds. Junling then asked Yang Wei, Professor Yang, are you going? Yang Wei shouted again, I'm not going. Crazy, crazy, all of you are crazy. He said that he would not go, but he followed behind the team. It was said that curiosity killed the cat, but among this group of people, he was the most curious. For a biological expert, species like the mother and the water droplet would die if you let him take a look, so he might still go and take a look. Junling was very meticulous. She did not let Junior Leopard and Chin Chin go with them. First, they were relatively weak. Second, they could go back to the sea to contact Fumamasa and Shuiyu Mountain. If the situation was really bad, they could only escape on the butcher. The path down was definitely not the pool. The pool was full of poison, but there was no poison in the cave. So, everyone climbed down the cave wall. You went down before, but you knew that monsters were coming out. What's the situation down there? Junling asked. Ding Meng really could not describe the situation at the bottom of the pool to her. An hour ago, he had crossed the pool tunnel and entered the space at the bottom. The signal blocking was removed, and all of his perception and system scanned the surrounding terrain in an instant. Below them was naturally a tunnel, but the walls of the tunnel were not sand and stone, but walls that were constantly oozing mucus. Upon closer inspection, they found that the mucus was the flesh and bones of the monsters. Ding Meng had sensed that groups of monsters were gathering towards him when he came down, so he did not hesitate to go back the way he came. But now, after coming down, he carefully sensed that the tunnel was not straight. Instead, it was very twisted. In addition to this one, there were many branches. They were intricately intertwined, constantly spiraling and spreading, occupying a large space underground. If it could be compared, Ding Meng and the others seemed to have entered the body of a monster larger than a starship. These tunnels were the monster's capillaries. As for its organs, they could not all be seen. It would be strange if this group of people did not feel scared. Yang Wei immediately retreated. I'm a little dizzy. I'll go up first. I'll wait for you on the surface. No one paid attention to him. Everyone was observing the underground world that was connected by flesh and bone. The only good news now was that there were no more monsters here. But the question was, if this was really the body of a giant beast, then where was the mother body? What was its function? Sing Kong was thoughtful. The mother body must play the most important role. It must be in the core position. Ding Meng sensed again. There was no pterosaur in his telekinetic vision, and there were no fluctuations at all in the effective range. Let's search around first, Jun Ling suggested. With Ding Meng's telekinetic vision, searching was very convenient. Moreover, the prototype's telepathic communication system was extremely powerful. It could act as a medium between Ding Meng's memory and the wristwatch. Simply put, Ding Meng could use his memory to construct a map on the wristwatch, and then generate a three-dimensional dynamic map. After running for a long time, the dynamic map on Ding Meng's wristwatch gradually took shape. However, Jun Ling and Sing Kang's jaws dropped. They were completely shocked. This monster nest buried underground was actually in the shape of a gigantic pterosaur. How big was it? Its left wing was stretched out and closest to the ground. Starting from the corner of the wing, there were 10 vertical passages leading to the stone planes on the ground. The stone planes were enough to dock 20 Golden Shield Alliance interceptors, but compared to the wing, the stone planes were probably not even 1/10 the size of the wing. And to the body, the wing was only 1/5 the size of the body. This was just like a super-giant ship. Ding Meng raised the wristwatch for everyone to take a closer look. Sing Kong could not help but mutter, "Fortunately, this is just a map and not a real pterosaur." "Professor, you're wrong this time." Jun Ling stared at the wall and said word by word, "This is not a map but a real pterosaur." Chapter 409. The passageway suddenly became dead silent. Everyone was obviously shocked by Jun Ling's words. Jun Ling rarely came to a conclusion directly. She wouldn't easily make a judgment if she wasn't completely sure. But now that she had spoken, there was an 80 or 90% chance that what she said was true. Little Arrow took 2 steps forward and poked the wall of flesh with his saber. When we came down, although the outer wall was made of flesh and bones, it lacked vitality and was just rotten flesh. But when we got here, it slowly gained vitality. I can feel the unique aura of the Devourers. It's like it's awakening. Even Little Arrow could be so sure. This obviously could not be wrong. Sing Kong was shocked. Could it be that after 4 hatches, this is the new form of the mother? Ding Meng sighed. I'm afraid it's not that simple. If such a monster was really formed, Shueyu Shan's judgment would be completely correct. It could directly cross the starry sky with its physical body, enter a wormhole, and travel to a space and time millions of light-years away without any damage. This was really more powerful and terrifying than the superfleets, stellar-level warships, and space fortresses in space. Sing Kong looked at Ding Meng in horror. Why? Ding Meng did not answer because he finally sensed the strong fluctuation. It was the aura of the pterosaur he saw in the pool. Follow me. Don't get separated, Ding Meng said in a deep voice. Seeing his serious expression, Jun Ling and the others did not ask any more questions and quickly followed behind him. Starting from the wing, Ding Meng moved towards the heart. Strangely, the pterosaur's aura was getting stronger and closer, but no monsters appeared along the way. Xiao Ai said, "My judgment is that it seems to be summoning us." Soon, spots of light appeared in the depths of the dark passageway. The spots of light slowly grew brighter and bigger, turning into a world of light. This was a huge cave. The bones and flesh on the walls were no longer in the form of poisonous mucus. Instead, they were as smooth as human skin. In the center of the cave, there were circular light screens floating in the air. They looked like light screens, vortexes, but more like mirrors. They were all emitting powerful energy waves. Junling, Elephant, and Little Arrow exclaimed in unison, "Forbidden Zone!" Ding Meng turned his head and said, "This is the Forbidden Zone you were talking about?" Little Arrow said, "It's definitely a forbidden zone. Although we haven't seen it, it fits the description of our ancestors." Ding Meng sighed. "It's not a forbidden zone, but it's still a forbidden zone." Junling was surprised. Why? Ding Meng really couldn't explain it to her, and even if she did, she wouldn't understand. Even if she did not understand, it was because these mirrors, which they thought were forbidden zones, were not real mirrors. They were the powerful Xinguang technology. The Ghost Eye Demon Pupil on the MV expedition emitted complex fluctuations. The frequency and rhythm were exactly the same as these mirrors. There was no difference at all. They did not expect to encounter the legendary Xinguang technology on such a remote planet. And the various miracles of Xinguang technology were definitely revered and worshipped by tribesmen like Junling and the others. Hence, they regarded this place as a forbidden zone. There were 20 mirrors in total. Theoretically speaking, the Xinguang technology hidden in this place should be larger than the Xinguang technology on the expedition. The 20 mirrors were arranged in a ring shape in the air. At that moment, there was a surge of energy in the middle of the ring. After countless white strands of energy converged, the terrifying little white pterosaur finally showed its true form. This time, it was no longer covered by the Ghost Eye Demon Pupil. It was obvious that its strength had decreased a lot. Junling, Elephant, and Little Arrow acted as if they were facing a formidable enemy. They pulled out their weapons and took 3 steps back at the same time. They looked like they were ready to fight at any time. Something creepy happened. The pterosaur actually opened its mouth and spoke in the human language. "You're finally here!" Everyone was so shocked that they could not speak. This was simply too frightening and too bizarre. Even though Junling and the other two had been through many years of killing and war, they felt as if their hearts had stopped beating. "Don't be nervous. If I wanted to kill you, you wouldn't have been able to come here." The pterosaur's body transformed again. It shook its body and transformed into a human form. It was just that it was in the form of light. But judging from its facial expression, the person it had transformed into looked like Yang Wei. Even its voice was the same. Yang Wei was usually dressed in a suit and leather shoes. The pterosaur imitated him perfectly. "You humans always feel more at ease when talking to your own people. So now that I'm talking to you, you shouldn't feel that much pressure." It thought that there was no pressure, but Junling and the others felt an unprecedented amount of pressure, especially Tsing Kong. He never expected the pterosaur to have such a heaven-defying replication ability. Among these people, only Ding Meng could remain calm. After all, he had fought with the water droplet before. The water droplet's replication ability was far stronger than the pterosaur's because the water droplet merged directly. "You're the mother?" Ding Meng asked in a deep voice. The pterosaur smiled. "You can understand it that way." Tsing Kong could not help but ask, "Are you the so-called devouring royal family?" The pterosaur nodded. "The devouring royal family is indeed my ancestor, but it has been passed down to our generation. We no longer have the true bloodline of the devouring royal family. Your previous guess was correct. I am a derivative, not a pure one." Although Tsing Kong had guessed correctly, he still felt a chill down his spine. He finally understood that nothing in Health Town could be hidden from the pterosaur. As for how it found out, it was beyond Tsing Kang's imagination. Junling calmed down. "My ancestor said that you came to Madison many years ago." The pterosaur paced back and forth. Suddenly, it waved its hand and said, "There are a few things that I have to let you know. First, I didn't come to your planet. I was placed here when I was in the egg stage." Everyone was now clear about this. It was the Golden Shield Alliance's doing. The pterosaur stretched out 2 fingers of light. Second, until now, I've been here for 231 years and 196 days. Third, in these 231 years, I've evolved a total of 3 times. This is the 3rd form that Professor Tsing knows. Jun Ling gritted his teeth. My ancestors, relatives, and friends almost all died at your hands. The pterosaur nodded. That's right. Almost all of your people were killed by my eggs. Jun Ling raised the green flame sword and said hatefully, Now, it's time for you to pay with your blood. The pterosaur's expression did not change. It said indifferently, If you have the ability to kill me, I won't complain. Ruthless did not waste any more words. He flew out and stabbed with his sword. To be honest, even Ding Meng had a whole new level of respect for this sword. It was the stabbing sword that teacher Zhao Yu had taught him back then. When this sword was unleashed, there were no changes. It was simple, direct, and pure. It already contained all the changes within. Jun Ling was almost one with the sword. The sharp green light directly pierced through the pterosaur's heart. However, the next moment everyone was dumbfounded. The sword had clearly pierced the pterosaur, but the pterosaur still spread its hands and smiled. See, you don't have the ability to kill me. The sword seemed to have pierced the air. Jun Ling swung the sword twice in shock, but the pterosaur was still fine. Xiao Ai said decisively, No, it's also a spiritual body. An extremely powerful spiritual body. A spiritual body was the energy form of consciousness. How could it be killed by a materialized cold weapon? The pterosaur smiled and waved its hand. The green flame sword automatically left Jun Ling's hand. After spinning twice in the air, it landed in the pterosaur's hand. The pterosaur opened its right palm, and the green flame sword immediately hovered in the center of its palm. The tip of the sword was facing down, and the hilt was facing up. The pterosaur seemed to be carefully observing the green flame sword. This sword has existed for 168 years. Your parents and ancestors have preserved it very well. In your hands it has been well maintained. It's still the same as before. It's a brand new sword. As it spoke, it waved its hand, and the sword magically flew back to Jun Ling's hand. Jun Ling was completely dumbfounded. She muttered to herself, How could this be? The pterosaur revealed a gentlemanly smile. Don't be discouraged. You don't have the ability of a powerhouse, so it's normal that you can't hurt me. Its words might not have any effect on others, but to Jun Ling, it was undoubtedly a huge blow. The people of their race had been fighting and killing monsters for many years. Not to mention other things, on this Madison planet, if they were not considered strong, then the others did not even have the qualifications to be considered weak. Seeing her dumbfounded expression, the pterosaur's smile became gentler. You and your people should be thanking me. Your race hasn't been wiped out yet, not because you're tenacious enough, but because I've been merciful, he suddenly sighed. There's a supreme law in the universe. No race can be completely wiped out. For billions of years, the majority of races have followed this law. Sing Kong could not help but ask, why? The pterosaur said, when the Creator created a race, this race had a reason for its existence. Once it was wiped out, it would break some kind of balance in the universe. Even if this balance was very small, it would sooner or later cause a catastrophe. Once the catastrophe spread to the end, it would cause destruction. Oh right, you humans call this phenomenon the collapse of the universe. Sing Kong frowned. These sayings were too profound, and he still did not understand. However, Jun Ling was not convinced. You killed so many of our people, and you want me to thank you? The pterosaur was puzzled. Is there a problem? Jun Ling said angrily, a life for a life. This has been a matter of course since ancient times. The pterosaur said, this is the law of you humans, not the law of the universe. The law of humans is not only useless to me, but also very superficial. Jun Ling was furious. You're talking nonsense, twisting words and forcing logic. Chapter 410. I'm not spouting nonsense. The pterosaur shrugged and explained, your people absorb power from the god's stone and practice martial arts. What's your purpose? It's nothing more than hunting creatures and surviving. I'm also absorbing the god's stone and becoming stronger. My purpose is also to survive. There's no such thing as you saying. The law of the universe is a dark forest. The strong survive and the weak are hunted. What's wrong with that? Junling could only stare. If he couldn't beat the pterosaur, everything he said would be pale and powerless. If he could beat the pterosaur, everything he said would be reasonable. Therefore, reason was built on the basis of strength. The so-called reasoning was often the result of a battle of strength. The pterosaur said, besides, I've always followed the law of the universe. I didn't kill you all. At least you're still alive. Sing Kong said, your purpose of keeping these people alive is to devour their fighting spirit and emotions. The pterosaur didn't deny it. Yes, I'm indeed absorbing the violent aura of all life forms. However, I stopped this wrong evolution method 10 years ago. This. Everyone was shocked again. Sing Kong obviously didn't believe it. Nonsense. You hatch thousands of monsters every time. The casualties are greater each time. The pterosaur laughed disdainfully. That's because you and Professor Yang have summoned more people each time. Both of your techniques are becoming more and more mature, forcing me to create a corresponding resistance force. The culprits of these casualties are the two of you. Sing Kong said angrily, nonsense. The pterosaur said, let me ask you one thing. If I want to destroy Health Town, can you stop me? There was no need to answer this question. It could deal with 3 starships, let alone a small health town. Sing Kong was immediately speechless. Ding Meng suddenly said, but you don't look like an unreasonable person. The pterosaur said proudly, yes, I've been trying to protect you, but you've been racking your brains to kill me. You humans are incredible when you're smart, but there's no limit to your stupidity. Ding Meng said, you said you've been waiting for us? Why is that? I'm not waiting for you. The pterosaur pointed at Junling, I'm waiting for her. Junling was shocked again. You're waiting for me? What do you want? Pterosaur stopped smiling and said seriously, I'm waiting for you to save me. I'm also saving yourself and everyone here. This time, everyone was shocked speechless. These words were really difficult to understand. Even Ding Meng and Xiao AI could not understand. The pterosaur suddenly turned around to look at Ding Meng. I can feel a life form similar to me inside your brain, but it is very weak. Ding Meng was shocked. He pointed at the pterosaur and asked, are you also evolved from a drop of water? The pterosaur was curious. Do you call it a droplet? Ding Meng calmed himself down and said, not exactly. It's a Kelvin spore life form, a type of exotic life form. That's right. The pterosaur nodded. I'm also an exotic body, but I'm still very different from it. Ding Meng asked, what's the difference? The pterosaur said, our race is also seeking peace, but the method is different. I don't agree with killing. Ding Meng said, I'm afraid your words are not convincing enough. I know. The pterosaur did not deny it. The real difference between me and it is that when I'm in my initial form, I'm influenced by my emotions, not by my memories. Others might not understand this, but Ding Meng definitely understood. The droplet became fierce because of the memories brought by the war civilization. The pterosaur continued, when I was still in my egg form, the first biological expert of the Golden Shield Alliance who found me was a cute girl. Professor Xing should know her. Her surname is Bai. Xing Kong was surprised. Professor Bai Yi? Didn't she die in that mission? This was hundreds of years ago. I only know that Professor Bai was a senior talent invited by the Alliance from the God War Star Ring. The pterosaur's tone turned cold. Is this how the upper echelons of the Golden Shield Alliance explained it to you? Xing Kong sighed. Unfortunately, I haven't met Professor Bai, but when I was still in the Alliance, I saw it in the system's event recorder. It was recorded that Professor Bai was the first person to find the egg, but unfortunately, she died. The pterosaur said, Professor Bai is a good person. When she found me, she took good care of me. She used the few resources on the spaceship to keep me alive. Her gentleness and patience greatly affected my form. Ding Meng and the others listened carefully. The pterosaur said, Professor Bai's plan was to release me after my first form was formed. Ding Meng and the others were surprised. Release you? The pterosaur seemed to know what they were questioning and took the initiative to explain. Professor Bai was more far-sighted than you. She was very knowledgeable and had already identified what species I was. She knew that the best outcome was to let me live freely in outer space. After all, I don't belong to your world, which is your God War star ring. My living environment will seriously affect your safety. Xing Kong said, but she still brought you back. The pterosaur said, she didn't bring me back. At that time, the other starships of the Golden Shield Alliance came as reinforcements. Among them were your upper echelons. They had an argument with Professor Bai. They insisted on bringing me back for research, but Professor Bai insisted. Hearing this, Ding Meng and the others felt that something was wrong. Sure enough, the pterosaur explained, during the argument, your upper echelons cruelly killed Professor Bai and abandoned her body on that planet. Not even a trace of her soul was left. Xing Kong sighed. The Golden Shield Alliance has always done things this way. That's why they've never been recognized by the mainstream sections. This is also why I've always wanted to leave them. The pterosaur said, this matter also affected my initial form. Ding Meng said, so you were brought back and then sent to Madison? The pterosaur said, in the process, I saw too many dark and sinister things in the Golden Shield Alliance. Ding Meng said coldly, so you came to our planet and started killing? The pterosaur said, I don't like killing as much as you say. I've already explained that we're also seeking the path of peace. It's just that our methods are different. Your ancestors advocated force. After my first form was completed, I had no choice but to use force to deal with them in order to avoid being hunted by them. You've also seen the truth. You're no match for them. If we were to fight for a long time, you'll only become weaker and weaker while I'll become stronger and stronger. What's wrong with me? Ding Meng was speechless. The law of survival was indeed, either you die or I die. Was there any room for choice? The pterosaur said, after I completed my second form, I realized that other than the so-called God Stone, there was also an energy body that you call a forbidden zone on this planet. This energy body is extremely mysterious and powerful. It's the most powerful energy source I've ever seen. Ding Meng said in a low voice, its name is Divine Light Technology. Divine Light Technology. The pterosaur was deep in thought. So that's its name. Ding Meng said, this is an energy source from a more advanced civilization. I don't know why it appeared on Madison. The pterosaur said, it's simple. Madison might have been visited by an alien civilization many years ago. The energy source that seems powerful to us is probably just a basin of water for those advanced civilizations to wash their feet. Ding Meng was angry and amused at the same time. The pterosaur actually described the Forbidden Zone, which was regarded as sacred by their tribe, as a basin of water for washing their feet. The pterosaur said, this energy source is profound and complicated. It was only after I evolved into my third form that I managed to collect all of it here. However, I couldn't activate it. Ding Meng frowned and said, you want to obtain the divine light energy source? The pterosaur said, actually, I don't want to. Ding Meng said in surprise, why? The pterosaur said proudly, because I'm smarter than all of you. I know that the more mysterious and powerful something is, the more it shouldn't be touched. It usually doesn't bring good things, but disasters. Divine light technology is an energy source. It doesn't belong to your world, nor does it belong to mine. It should be used by the people of its world. Otherwise, it will cause a disaster. Ding Meng agreed with this statement. He also had a deep understanding of it. A man's wealth is his own ruin, Ding Meng said, but do you want to activate it now? The pterosaur did not answer directly. He looked around and said, after all of you came down, you must have seen everything clearly, right? Jun Ling said in shock. Could it be that this giant pterosaur underground is your fourth form? The pterosaur said, you can say yes, but you can also say no. Everyone was confused again. The pterosaur explained, the reason why I said it is because if we evolve according to the method of devouring emotions, then the fourth form is indeed like this. Sing Kong said, didn't you say that you gave up on this method 10 years ago? The pterosaur nodded and said, yes. 10 years ago, I foresaw the danger of this form. Once I succeed in evolving, I will become the target of all the fleets in the Heavenly Wars starfield. Not to mention the star fortresses of the 6 great sects of the Heavenly Wars Alliance, even the sects on the outskirts of the starfield will be difficult for me to deal with. The result will be my destruction. There was no doubt about this. If such a powerful pterosaur really broke through the ground and ascended into space, all kinds of radars would definitely identify it as a demonic beast. In the history of mankind, demonic beasts would always be the enemy. Mankind would do everything in their power to destroy them. Ding Meng suddenly sighed and said, previously, I had an illusion that there were as many monsters as there were hairs on a cow, but when they fought, they were very methodical and tactical. I guessed that this mother body was full of intelligence. Now, it seems that I was right. Chapter 4:11. The pterosaur praised. Everything in the universe has spirituality. Even a little rabbit on the grassland will be prepared to escape if it senses danger. Junling said, I understand. You said that you stopped devouring, so this big dragon looks like a half-dead monster. It's all rotten flesh and bones on the outside. Only when it gets close to you, the core, will there be vitality around it. The pterosaur said, correct. This is also why I said that this is not my fourth form. Sing Kong nodded. I understand. You've given up? The pterosaur said, but there's still a problem. There are no more resources on Madison for me to absorb. I know that some of the islands in the sea have god stones, but I haven't invaded the sea. You should know why. Jun Ling was silent. She now knew that the pterosaur was not spouting nonsense. If the pterosaur was really a bloodthirsty race, the entire land would be its world. Health Town would have been wiped off the map. If it absorbed the resources in the sea and devoured the gods' stones on the island, Madison would have become a world of devouring. Of course, the pterosaur would inevitably attract a stronger fleet from the Golden Shield Alliance. In the end, it would still be a dead end. Sing Kong suddenly laughed. You have a good plan. You haven't attacked Health Town for a long time, making the Golden Shield Alliance, and even me think that the situation is still under our control. What a good smoke screen! In the face of his mockery, the pterosaur just smiled faintly. I'm also an intelligent creature. Naturally, I have to plan for my future. Ding Meng said, then what are your plans? The pterosaur said, Professor Bai Yi was right. She thought that I shouldn't have come to your world. I should have gone to outer space to travel freely and search for the end of the universe. Maybe I can find the origin of my race. That's where I should be. Ding Meng said, I'm afraid your wish will not come true. The pterosaur's expression was complicated. Yes, in the past 10 years, you've organized big hunts and all kinds of attacks. I've been sacrificing my own energy to resist your attacks, and my power has been depleted bit by bit. Today, I can only exist in the form of a spirit. In the battle just now, both of you should have seen that I sacrificed the last of my protective energy to create egg. That was how I managed to defeat the Golden Shield Alliance's fleet. The protective energy naturally referred to the circle of light on its body, but even so, Jun Ling and the others felt terrified. Even though it was in a spiritual state, its strength was still something to look up to. Ding Meng said, So you thought of Xinguang biotechnology? The pterosaur said, after so many years of research, I've discovered that Xinguang technology can not only help me regain my strength, but it can also help me evolve into the fourth form. Everyone became nervous again. The pterosaur smiled. Don't worry, I'm not stupid enough to evolve into such a violent beast. Junling asked curiously, can you evolve into something else? The pterosaur nodded. When I was in my initial form, I was influenced by Dr. Bai. I think her way of thinking is the true correct path of evolution. When I evolved into the third form, I was also influenced by some people in the Golden Shield Alliance. Sing Kong was curious. Oh? Most of the people in the Golden Shield Alliance are self-interested. Are there any good people? The pterosaur said seriously, yes there are. For example, your friend Mr. Du Ming. In order to help you, he did a lot of things in secret, including protecting your family, concealing information for you, helping you upload fake data, trying to minimize casualties, and secretly transporting excessive supplies for you. He took a huge risk to do all these things. This Mr. Du showed me many valuable qualities of your race. His kindness, friendliness, humility, and so on. Sing Kong immediately straightened his back. Not bad, old Du is really kind. The pterosaur sighed. But I have to tell you with regret that his deeds were discovered by your higher-ups last year. Unfortunately, he was killed. His wife and child also died an unnatural death. Sing Kong suddenly felt sad. Old Du, he sighed. The pterosaur said seriously, if I can absorb the energy of Xinguang technology, I can open a wormhole after I recover and be transported to the depths of the endless sea of stars. At that time, I will be truly free. But this Xinguang technology is too profound. In the process of my research, I found that although they look like mirrors on the surface, they are actually warehouses. They need a specific key to open. The specific key was naturally a command or password. The password could be unlocked by Little Rascal, but Little Rascal was not here. The command was known by Fujin Zhen and the others, but it would take them 100 or 200 years to figure it out. Ding Meng frowned. You know where the key is? The pterosaur pointed at Junling, it's on her. Me? Junling pointed at herself curiously. But I don't have any key on me. The pterosaur said, when you dived down from the pool tunnel, the necklace around your neck emitted a powerful energy. This energy resonated with the Xinguang technology here. I am absolutely certain that it is the key to open the Xinguang warehouse. As for why it is on you, I don't know. Junling was silent. She picked up her pendant and muttered to herself for a long time before saying, this necklace is a protective amulet passed down from generation to generation in our tribe. Only the strongest in the tribe can wear it. Our ancestors said that this necklace will protect our tribe. At certain critical moments, it will have a miraculous effect. When I wear it, I find that it not only repels water and fire, but also immune to poison and infection. The people around me are also very healthy and never get sick. Sing Kong laughed coldly. Alright, even if this is the key, what if you absorb the energy and evolve into a dragon? Then won't we have been fooled by you? The pterosaur sighed. Professor Tsing, you still haven't figured out the situation. Just now, one of the 3 starships used short-distance teleportation to escape. What will happen next? Can't you guess? Sing Kong was stunned again. The pterosaur also laughed coldly. That Gao's son won't let this go. He will definitely ask for emergency help from the higher-ups of the Alliance. At that time, a more powerful fleet will arrive at Maka Planet. Once I'm destroyed or captured by them, Professor Tsing, you should have guessed your end. Moreover, the others on this planet will also be killed. Hasn't the Alliance always done things this way? That's why I said that if you help me, you will not only save me, but also save yourselves. The pterosaur continued, let me tell you another piece of bad news. Professor Yang is not waiting for you on the ground. He has already rushed to Health Town to send a distress signal to the outside world. Maka Planet will soon be no longer remote. This place will be the focus of the entire God Wars starfield. I believe you, Junling suddenly said. Everyone was stunned again. Even the pterosaur was surprised. Junling took off her necklace and looked at the pterosaur silently. I believe you for 2 reasons. The pterosaur said, Please speak. Junling said, You're right. If you wanted to kill us, we would have died many times. You don't have to keep us alive. You would have gone to the sea to look for the god's stone long ago. She paused and sighed. There's another reason. I also believe in justice and good deeds. Good deeds are destined to be rewarded. The pterosaur bowed slightly. Thank you for your trust. I won't let you down. It gently waved its hand and the necklace automatically floated from Junling's palm. As it moved its hand, the necklace gently floated to the center of the mirror. Ding Meng realized that the pterosaur also practiced telekinesis. However, he was not familiar with this type of telekinesis. He could only be sure that it was definitely not a universal telekinesis. As soon as the necklace entered the center of the 20 mirrors, a miracle happened. The pendant emitted waves of purple energy in all directions. It was as gentle as the waves on the beach. All the mirrors quickly began to change color and become colorful. A moment later, the pendant disappeared into thin air, and the 20 mirrors emitted a shio 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 sound. Then, the whole mirror changed. 20 white spherical pupils formed a circle, and the surface of each pupil turned into a mirror image of a pearl. Xiao AI was a little excited. It really is Xinguang technology. This wave is exactly the same as the one on the expedition. But at the same time, everyone was surprised to see that Ding Meng's forehead also lit up. A pearl mark of the same appearance was also flashing. Xiao AI said, I knew that little rascal Xinguang technology and the Mao Xing civilization had a mysterious connection. Now it seems that it's true. Junling also looked at Ding Meng in surprise. No wonder I always felt an indescribable sense of familiarity with you. My intuition told me that you are of the same kind as us. It turns out that the prophecy of our ancestors came true. Ding Meng asked, What prophecy? Little Arrow said, Many years ago, the ancestors of the tribe prophesied that if the situation on planet Madison continues to develop, sooner or later, we will not be able to hold on and retreat to the beach. When we are at the end of our rope, a fated person will come to us. Once the amulet is put into use, he will be able to save us all. Ding Meng could not help but laugh. He did not really believe in this. It was not that he did not believe in it. This kind of thing could only be determined by the prophets of the Dexing kingdom. He did not believe that a ruthless person like Junling could completely grasp how to use the Holy Spirit. However, he did not want to explain too much. He took the initiative to say, This is a teleportation portal. Don't be in a hurry to go in. The pterosaur asked, Why? Ding Meng said, Because I've seen Xinguang technology before. The 20 light spheres are 20 teleportation portals. They can teleport people to different locations at random. There's only a very small chance that they will be teleported to the real Xinguang warehouse. This time, it was the pterosaur's turn to hesitate. How far can they be teleported? Ding Meng said expressionlessly, To other planets in the same galaxy. Chapter 412. Upon hearing that it was another planet, Elephant and Little Arrow immediately retreated. They had lived here for generations and would not leave Madison unless it was absolutely necessary. I'll give it a try. Junling stepped forward. No matter what, she had to enter the Forbidden Zone at least once. Although no one who had entered the Forbidden Zone had ever returned, Ding Meng's explanation made her understand that the people who had entered the Forbidden Zone in the past had not died, but had been transferred away. Let me go first. The pterosaur had already walked into the teleportation portal. This time, 20 beams of light shot out at the same time. The pterosaur's figure disappeared in the blink of an eye. No one knew where he had gone, and even his aura had disappeared. Zinkong laughed bitterly. I don't think I need to go. I've never believed in luck. I'll just stay here and wait for you guys. Junling also walked into the teleportation portal and disappeared in less than 3 seconds. Xiao Ai said, Ding Meng, I think you can give it a try. Besides, I have a feeling that you can enter the real warehouse. Ding Meng asked, why? Xiao Ai said, I suspect that Xinguang technology is the energy source created by the Mao Xing civilization. Since Little Rascal left his pearl imprint on you, Xinguang technology will definitely be able to recognize your imprint and transfer you to the warehouse. This analysis was theoretically valid, but what really drove Ding Meng to want to go in was still his curiosity. The last time he entered the Xinguang warehouse, the feeling of instant recovery was so pleasant. If he could really enter it again, he would be facing mountains of gold and silver. This time, there was a high chance that the 9th origin could be successfully constructed. Let's go. Ding Meng also entered the teleportation portal. The beams of light shot out and instantly transferred him away. The next second, Ding Meng's vision lit up. Xiao Ai also became excited. My judgment was right. Xinguang technology is the energy source of the Mao Xing civilization. You've really been transferred here. It was exactly the same as the teleportation portal on Planet Thorn. There was an endless plaza, and the floor was made of crystal. The entire space was filled with these Xinguang crystals. There was no end in sight. However, to Ding Meng's surprise, Junling was also teleported here. Junling's surprise was no less than that of Ding Meng. She also used her palms to press on the ground and used her boots to step on the lines and patterns. Ding Meng quickly stopped her. Don't use your origin energy, and don't prepare for battle. Junling was so scared that he quickly retreated. What is this place? Ding Meng said, Congratulations, you have entered the real Divine Light warehouse. Junling said in bewilderment, This is the Divine Light warehouse? I don't see any so-called high-grade energy. Ding Meng couldn't help but smile. Don't worry, you'll see. Next, just do as I say. We'll have to fight in a while. He knew that these Xinguang crystals would test the two of them and record their information. Then, there would be a series of simulation tests before they could pass. The two of them sat down cross-legged at the same time. Ding Meng opened his telekinesis vision, while Ding Meng held his breath. He released his telekinesis and gently touched the crystals on the ground. A large flood of red energy was activated and instantly surrounded Ding Meng's body. When Ding Meng first came into contact with the Xinguang energy source, he couldn't withstand the huge influx of energy. However, after 3 years of cultivation on the expedition, strictly speaking, 10 years of cultivation, Ding Meng was far from his weak self. All the energy that entered his body immediately circulated in an orderly manner. Now, his biggest advantage was that the diamond star-fusing art had been cultivated to a whole new level. In the smelting space in Ding Meng's heart, it could now carry at least 50 times more energy. When he set off from Blue Pole Star City to the Linda system, the Starbow Group had specially prepared a pack of supplies for his safety. Among them was a silver core stone gifted by the transit string. That silver core stone could allow the Blue Origin to operate at full power for a year. Even if this silver core stone was installed on the butcher could operate for a month. Even if Ding Meng melted this silver core stone, he would only be able to fill up a third of the smelting space. This showed how strong his foundation was. When he snatched the butcher, if it wasn't for Fusion's insistence on keeping it as a backup, Ding Meng would have melted the silver core stone. Now that the holy light had entered his body, the smelting process began like a fish in water. Xiao Ai sighed. It's been a long time since I've enjoyed myself so much. Ding Meng wasn't the only one enjoying himself. Junling, who was next to him, also benefited. Ding Meng expanded his telekinesis vision to a range of 3 meters and then used microdots to guide a small portion of the energy he released to share with her. Jun Ling and the others didn't need to absorb energy at all. In the past, they were close to the Xinguang. Within a certain range, the energy would spontaneously search for them. Although there were no Xinguang here, Ding Meng believed that with the magic of Xinguang technology, he didn't need to worry about this problem. How do you feel? Ding Meng asked. Jun Ling closed her eyes. I feel very comfortable. It's the same feeling as when I'm in the induction cabin. Ding Meng asked, Can you construct an origin? Jun Ling nodded affirmatively. Yes. Ding Meng asked, Have you memorized all the techniques? Jun Ling answered confidently, I've memorized all the techniques in your backpack that are below 4-star. Ding Meng said, I might need a long time to cultivate in a while. While I'm cultivating, you should try your best to cultivate those techniques. Remember, if I don't call you, don't move. Don't practice your martial arts alone in the square. Be careful not to trigger any of the mechanisms here. Jun Ling said, Don't worry. After explaining the precautions, Ding Meng only had one thing to do, and that was to construct the 9th origin with all his might. He had already memorized the composition of the 9th origin during his years of cultivation. The only thing he lacked was energy. Now that he had an inexhaustible supply of energy, the construction process couldn't be faster. After an unknown amount of time, Xiao AI finally spoke. Gene body energy detected to be abundant. Level 6 memory card authority unlocked. Authorization complete. Ding Meng didn't open his eyes because he had already seen the changes in Xiao AI. The square hologram that represented Xiao AI in his field of vision was no longer a two-dimensional surface. Instead, it was like the main control panel of a starship. It was a three-dimensional hologram that could generate multiple holograms at the same time. He didn't need to use his eyes to observe these holograms. All kinds of information instantly flowed into his brain. He could immediately see Xiao AI's movements, field of vision, and feedback. Xiao AI's feedback was a list of simple names. Heart assimilation secrets, wings of light, Terminator. Ding Meng's eyes lit up. New techniques? Xiao AI said, not techniques. They're called magical techniques. Ding Meng was curious. What are magical techniques? Xiao AI said solemnly, From now on, your telekinesis has left the initial stage of a fluxer and officially stepped into the ranks of a warlock. Now that you've become a primary warlock, you naturally have to learn magical technique. Wow! Ding Meng immediately became excited. The names of these magical techniques were awesome. Terminator? Could it be that it was the incarnation of a devil, the Terminator? Xiao AI immediately poured a bucket of cold water on him. These are all the lowest level magical techniques. Ding Meng's eyelids drooped. Why didn't you say so earlier? Xiao AI said, although they're low-level magical techniques, once you cultivate them to a certain level, they'll have the same effect as magic tricks. Ding Meng's eyes lit up again. You should have said so earlier. You should have said so earlier. Xiao AI said, All right, that's all for later. Now that you've successfully constructed the 9th origin, congratulations, Ding Meng. You can be considered to have truly reached the initial stage of the K-virus. Origin ability user, warlock, and virus immune body, you already possess these main characteristics. Next, you should start constructing the 10th origin, but time is limited, so you can't be too impatient. Sure enough, Diamond Star Secrets was a 10-star cultivation technique. Ding Meng asked, How much time has passed? Xiao AI said, 42 hours and 37 minutes. You should be able to calculate how formidable divine light biotechnology is by now, right? Ding Meng fell silent. On the SS expedition, relying on the primitive cultivation method, he had used a full 10 years to complete half of the 9th origin. With the help of divine light biotechnology, he had completed the construction of the remaining half in a single day. This was the gap between human civilization and the godly civilizations. Mao Xing civilization, where Little Rascal was from, was perhaps tens of billions of years ahead of humanity. Xiao AI seemed to know what he was thinking. She took the initiative to say, "If you want to find little rascal and restore her, it will be difficult. Perhaps you will have to pay an unimaginable price." Ding Meng nodded. He had always spoken with his actions. "Let's go. We should also start taking the test of the divine light biotechnology." As soon as he opened his eyes, Jun Ling immediately sensed it and turned around. "You're finally awake," Ding Meng said. "Sorry for making you wait so long." Jun Ling said, "It's okay. I feel very peaceful beside you. I haven't felt this way for many years." Ding Meng glanced at her and could not help but be surprised. "You improved so quickly?" Jun Ling was puzzled. "Quickly? I don't think so." In Ding Meng's perception, Jun Ling was already an advanced war venerable with a very deep foundation. Judging by the sharp energy fluctuations, she had the aura of a combat master. Ding Meng said, "You've practiced all the cultivation techniques in the memory?" Jun Ling said, "Yes, I've practiced all of them." Ding Meng's eyes widened. "You've practiced all the cultivation techniques?" Jun Ling said, "Is there a problem?" There were so many cultivation techniques in his bag. Previously on the island, he had chosen to let Jun Ling and the others practice. For example, elephant could resist and fight. Ding Meng let him practice the body hardening system's origin Vajra. Ding Meng let him practice the body hardening system's origin substance Vajra. Ding Meng let him practice the light speed system's transient steps, imperial wind, and divine movement system's light speed system's cultivation technique. In short, they were matched according to each person's characteristics. As for Jun Ling, she was suitable for the heat system. She practiced the heat source technique, star burning technique, rainbow sacred flame, and other cultivation technique. However, this group of people was really obsessed with cultivation techniques and martial technique. They wanted to take a look at the cultivation techniques of the other systems. Jun Ling's reason was that it would be easier to deal with different opponents in the future if they encountered them. Therefore, when she said to practice all of them, she meant that she practiced the heat system's frost system, electromagnetic body hardening system, and biochemical mutation system's cultivation technique. Ding Meng was dumbfounded. "This is bad." Chapter 413. An origin ability user's cultivation technique couldn't be casually practiced, especially at the initial stage. A simple example would be the thermal and ice system. In terms of their effects, there was a conflict between them. If one's temperature was too high, it could melt substances. Due to the thermal energy, it would produce many effects. The other's temperature was too low, it could freeze substances. In fact, the effect was very simple. By the same logic, if an origin ability user cultivated both thermal and ice systems, there would naturally be conflicts in their bodies, manifesting in various symptoms. In the end, it would seriously affect the growth of an origin ability user. It wasn't that one couldn't cultivate in this way, but that ordinary people couldn't mess around like this. The Holy Grail Federation and the Norse Empire both had unique research on cultivation technique. Some high-level secret manuals could allow one to cultivate in such a nature-defying way, but Jun Ling had cultivated in so many different systems. It would be strange if she didn't suffer from qi deviation. Xiao AI said, "Not necessarily. She's still different from ordinary origin ability users. After all, they fight all year round, and their physical fitness is different from ordinary people. At least their bodies are strong enough, and they might be able to endure the side effect. Look, she doesn't seem to have any abnormalities on her body. Of course, this can be attributed to the effects of divine light technology." Ding Meng nodded. Next, he would have to face the copy of himself produced by the divine light crystal. With his experience on the Thorn Planet, Ding Meng was now very confident that he could pass this test. This was because he had too many useful things on him. Putting aside the various martial arts techniques, the prototype, catoptric deflection, and the firearms in his satchel could all be used to test the copy. Moreover, His origin ability was now deep, and he could slowly improve his combat ability. Back then, the Divine Light Warehouse had produced a total of 14 copies of himself with 16 pupils. Now there were 20 pupils. His initial estimate was that he would need to replicate 16 to 20 copies. With his strength, he could divide it into at least 50 levels, so it wouldn't be difficult to pass. On the other hand, Junling's strength was relatively weak, so it would be difficult for him to pass. However, reality mercilessly taught Ding Meng a lesson. After the two of them had walked a certain distance, the air indeed began to twist and ripple like water. A powerful wave was generated, and the mimic quickly walked out. In the first 3 waves of imitations, Ding Meng had used the simple methods of an origin ability user to kill them. He had only slightly increased his origin ability. However, Junling didn't use her origin ability at all. She had used the strength of an ordinary person and used her dagger to change her moves to kill the imitations. Moreover, she had killed them in one move. Xiao Ai said helplessly, "Worry about yourself. Look at how skilled his martial arts are." No matter how unwilling Ding Meng was, he had to admit that Junling's martial arts were heterogeneous, practical, and effective. After all, she had experienced far more life and death battles than he had. The classic example was that the mimic also had a similar dagger. The mimic would raise his hand and slash forward. The mimic's attack was swift and fierce. Junling's elbow seemed to strike the mimic's wrist, and the mimic's movements were clearly sluggish. Then, Junling's elbow and wrist seemed to quickly twist a few times, and the mimic's dagger fell from his hand. Junling then turned her hand, and the dagger sank into the mimic's heart. The mimic turned into a wave and disappeared into the air. The next mimic would definitely use this move as well. However, when the attack came, Junling didn't use her muscle-splitting bone-dislocating hand. Instead, she leaned forward and suddenly stood up and used her shoulder to flick the mimic's dagger away. At the same time, the dagger stabbed into the mimic's lower abdomen. The mimic continued to disappear. In short, Junling didn't use her origin ability, because if she did, the next mimic would definitely become stronger. The more she fought, the more difficult it would be. Instead, she used her ingenuity and endless techniques to torture and kill the mimic. Junling only used 30 minutes to kill 16 mimic. She even turned her head back to observe Ding Meng's battle with great interest. Ding Meng's method of relying on increasing his origin ability to fight was clearly inefficient. It took him more than an hour to catch up to Junling's pace. "How is it? Do you want to take a break? I'm guessing that we should be out soon," Ding Meng asked. Junling shook her head. "I'm not tired at all." "Alright," Ding Meng said helplessly. "Let's continue." The air continued to transform into virtual portals. It was still the boundless Xinguang Plaza, but this time, all the crystals in the plaza were suffused with a faint light. 3,000 meters in front of Ding Meng and Junling, a solemn 3-story tall building appeared. This was the first time Ding Meng had seen it in Xinguang biotechnology. Before he had time to examine it carefully, Junling exclaimed, "The legendary Temple of Gods!" Ding Meng was surprised. "You know about this building?" Junling nodded excitedly. "My ancestors told me that our clan is called the Moyi clan. Our ancestor was called Moyi, so that's how we got our name. Elder Moyi was the strongest warrior in our clan. Later generations built this temple to commemorate him. Based on the descriptions of my ancestors, I can be 100% sure that this is the legendary temple." Ding Meng also carefully scanned this so-called temple. It wasn't big, covering an area of at most 2,000 square meters. The architectural style should be considered something from the ancient human era. It felt like a church. However, the entire temple exuded a layer of pure white luster, as if it was draped with a holy veil. From afar, the temple gave off a sacred and dignified feeling that it couldn't be violated. However, the strange thing was that Ding Meng's telekinetic vision couldn't penetrate the temple. He couldn't see what was going on inside. He had encountered similar situations before. The first time was in the Norse Empire, when he met the military colonel Feng Rufei. Feng Rufei's strength was so strong that he directly suppressed Ding Meng with his energy. The second time was when he discovered the inverse crystal on Cyprus planet. The inverse crystal had the effect of sucking, and it directly swallowed telekinetic waves. However, this time, the entire temple seemed to be shrouded in a very mysterious force. Any signals from the outside world couldn't enter the main door. Telekinetic particles were like small tadpoles. When they reached the main door, they hit an invisible barrier. Whether you used force or not, you couldn't move forward. Xiao AI said, "According to my analysis, this is some kind of very high-end shielding technology. Even if this temple was moved to Health Town, the starship's most advanced quantum radar wouldn't be able to detect it. It wouldn't even be able to detect its blind spots." Ding Meng was not surprised by this. Xinguang biotechnology had many wonders. His sense of surprise had long been exhausted on the expedition. As they approached the temple, Ding Meng found some strange symbols engraved on the walls of the main door. They were probably some kind of writing. Junling nodded. "These are the hieroglyphs of our race. However, we rarely use them in recent decades." "What does it say?" Ding Meng asked. Junling said word by word, "Moi Temple. Those who are not chosen are not allowed to enter." Ding Meng frowned. "What does chosen mean?" Junling sighed. "It's very likely to be my amulet. It's a pity that it's gone now. I don't know if it was used by the teleportation array or if it's in the hands of the mother." As soon as he finished speaking, a voice sounded in the air. "That's not an amulet. It's a protection command. The protection command has been lifted. The strange array has been reactivated. The annihilation is now in countdown." "Who's there?" Junling jumped in fright. He jumped back and pulled out his dagger at the same time. To tell the truth, Ding Meng was also quite frightened. The voice was neither male nor female. It didn't sound like an electronic synthesizer, nor did it sound like a monster's voice. It sounded like a broken loudspeaker. It was especially harsh and unpleasant to the ears. The strangest thing was that you could clearly hear the voice, but you couldn't find the source of the voice. It seemed to be everywhere, but it also seemed to be coming from your brain. This was the first time Ding Meng had encountered such a strange situation. "Who are you?" Ding Meng quickly spread out his psychokinesis vision. There wasn't even the slightest bit of origin energy within a few kilometers of him. It was frighteningly empty. The voice suddenly became flabbergasted. "Eh? You're also a fluxer. For a fluxer to appear in the human world, you're really lucky." Junling raised his dagger and said coldly, "Who are you?" The voice became gentle. "Mo ye clansmen, put down your weapons. I'm not your enemy. I welcome you here." Junling said, "You keep saying that you're not our enemy. Then why are you hiding so sneakily?" The voice hesitated. "Are you sure you want to see me?" Junling replied coldly, "If you have the ability, then come out." The air in front of him began to distort again. This time, the ripples had a layer of dark blue luster. It was like a whirlpool in the ocean. A blue star suddenly drilled out of the whirlpool. It was the size of a thumb and flashed like a bright blue star. Junling said angrily, "What tricks are you playing? Where are you?" The voice said, "I've already appeared. Don't tell me you can't see me?" Junling was immediately startled. "You? Could it be that this star is you?" The bright star's tone was somewhat dissatisfied. "What's a star?" "I'm a singularity." "What's a singularity?" Ding Meng was also very curious. The singularity sighed. "With the level of human knowledge, it's very difficult for me to explain it to you. I'll describe it to you like this. Don't you humans have something called a main control console on your battleships?" Ding Meng immediately reacted. "You're an artificial intelligence system?" The singularity said, "If you remove the words artificial intelligence, the system can be explained with some difficulty. Ding Meng probed. Are you the system of this energy warehouse? The Singularity said, You can understand it that way, but I think the term manager is more appropriate. This time, even Xiao AI was astonished. If the star in front of them really had the powerful functions of the starship's main control console, then Xinguang biotechnology was really too advanced. Such a small star was actually a management system. Ding Meng became even more curious. Those humanoid energy bodies that looked exactly like us, were they created by you? Chapter 4:14. The Singularity replied proudly, Do you think the energy warehouse is a place you can enter as you please? Only outstanding people can enter. Outstanding? Ding Meng was curious. That's a new way to put it. The Singularity said, Of course. Coming here, not only do you have to be strong, but you also have to be smart. Most importantly, you have to be kind and benevolent. However, the evil aura on both of you is too strong. If the identification function hadn't found something special about you, how could you have seen me? What's special about us? Jun Ling expressed his confusion. The Singularity said, All right, then I'll talk about you first. Your heart isn't bad. Jun Ling obviously didn't believe it. You can tell? The Singularity was dissatisfied. Nonsense. I can see your entire body, including the molecules in your cells. What else can I not see? However, the killing aura on you is too strong. Logically speaking, you shouldn't have been sent to me. However, the identification function told me that you have the removal command. It seems that you are a legitimate descendant of Moye. The fact that you can come here proves that Madison is no longer safe. Jun Ling was even more curious. How do you know? The oddity said, Back then, my master encountered danger in space and opened up a tunnel to travel through space. He was teleported to this star field and was forced to land on your planet Madison. He happened to run into Moye, who rescued him. After a period of recovery, he survived. Jun Ling was shocked. I don't even know this, but you do. The Singularity said proudly, This is normal. After all, you humans have a short lifespan. How many generations of Moye's descendants are you? Jun Ling said, My generation is the 8th generation. The Singularity said, The 8th generation. At least 1,000 years should have passed. Jun Ling was stunned. The origin of our race was 1,000 years ago? The Singularity said, Yes, that was 1,000 years ago. You were still uncivilized humans, but the Moye race was very kind. After my master recovered, he saw that your race was too primitive and lived a slash-and-burn life. Therefore, he spread some modified divine light energy all over Madison to help you grow. In your words, these modified energy sources are God's stones. Jun Ling said, No wonder the ancestors repeatedly told the descendants to guard the God's stones at all costs. The Singularity said, Before my master left, he also predicted that your race would face a disaster in the future. Therefore, he left some backup energy sources for you. You call it a forbidden zone. Jun Ling was even more surprised. Your master can predict what will happen 1,000 years later? The Singularity's tone became even more arrogant. Of course. My master is from a powerful race in this universe. There is almost nothing that he does not know. Jun said, but there are times he encountered danger and he almost lost his life. The oddity was instantly at a loss for words. Wasn't this face smacking a little too fast? All right. The Singularity's tone was somewhat helpless. Although Master left behind backup energy, he was also worried that the energy would be snatched away by those with evil intentions. After all, you were too weak at that time. If you used the energy of our race well, it would be able to regulate climate changes, seasonal changes, improve your natural environment, and allow you to live a carefree life. However, if you used it carelessly, it would cause a world-destroying disaster, and your race would be completely wiped out. Therefore, Master set up a strange formation and stored the energy in it. At the same time, he created me and made me the administrator of the strange formation. Ding Meng thought to himself that the light source of Xinguang biotechnology was not called a teleportation formation, but a strange formation. The singularity explained, the strange formation cannot be activated casually. Even I do not have the authority to do so. It can only be activated with the help of a release command. When my master left, he specifically entrusted Mo Yi to let his descendants enter the forbidden zone with the release command only at the most critical time. What kind of danger has your Mo Yi race encountered? Junling sighed. He had no choice but to tell the singularity about what had happened over the years. The singularity pondered and said, "The devouring royal family was wiped out in ancient times. I did not expect that there were still descendants who survived. According to what you said, this pterosaur has no evil intentions. No wonder the identification function did not intercept it." As he spoke, Ding Meng's vision suddenly blurred. With a whoosh, the scenery around him changed drastically. Ding Meng found himself back on Xinguang Square, but Jun Ling and the singularity were beside him. "This is," Ding Meng said hesitantly. "We have been teleported back?" "What do you mean by teleported back?" the singularity said disdainfully. "This is not teleportation. This is a real-time image." Xiao AI said in a low voice, "He is right. I have also detected that this is not an energy teleportation. If we have to explain, if he is the main control console, then what we are seeing now is a real-time image on the screen." Ding Meng could only sigh in admiration. The main control console of the warship generated a screen, but that was still in the form of a screen. However, Xinguang Technologies could directly transfer you to a screen and immerse you in the real world. It was clear how advanced Xinguang Technologies was. The singularity said, "Look over there." Ding Meng and Xiao AI turned their heads and saw that not far from the square, a glowing bird was lying on the ground, half dead. Junling said, "What is that?" "That is the pterosaur you were talking about," the singularity explained. "It did not lie to you. In my detection, its heart is full of goodwill. It yearns for freedom and longs to travel, so the identification function did not intercept it. It also allowed it to absorb the Xinguang energy it needed. It has now evolved." Ding Meng said in surprise, "Is this its fourth form?" The singularity said, "That's right. However, after evolving, there will be a period of weakness. During this period, it will be as weak as an ordinary bird. Even your human weapons can easily kill it, leaving it in a spiritual state forever." Ding Meng and Jun Ling were stunned once again. They did not expect the mother to look like this after evolving. The singularity continued, however, after the period of weakness passes, it will slowly recover its vitality and be able to absorb all sorts of resources to become stronger again. In its current form, it is very suitable for roaming the depths of the universe. "After all, it is very safe," he said with a sigh. "I did not expect the descendants of the Devourer royalty to have evolved to this extent. It is truly incredible. Humans are indeed a weak and wonderful race in the universe. To think that they can affect the evolution of the Devourer royalty." Ding Meng looked at the glowing bird on the ground and his gaze turned thoughtful. At this moment the image changed again. Ding Meng and the other two had returned to the main entrance of the temple. The singularity said, "I've finished talking about her. It's your turn now." Ding Meng asked, "Could it be that there's something special about me?" The singularity's tone also became surprised. "You actually have the spiritual imprint of our race? No wonder the identification function did not stop you." Ding Meng knew that he was referring to the pearl imprint on his forehead. It was left behind by Little Rascal. Then, something inconceivable happened. The oddity suddenly shot out an extremely fine blue light, which struck Ding Meng's forehead. It appeared as though it was constantly burning her, but it also appeared as though it was carefully scanning her. Suddenly, a soft bang rang out as the blue light was torn apart. The pearl mark seemed to have rebounded with a mysterious power, which sent the oddity flying several meters away. The Singularity's tone was extremely shocked. You are actually the person this spiritual body entrusted to? How is this possible? How can the spiritual body of our race entrust itself to a weak race like humans? Furthermore, your spiritual body is not an ordinary spiritual body. How is this possible? How is this possible? Even the Singularity was so flustered. Ding Meng hurriedly asked, "What kind of race are you?" The Singularity's tone immediately turned cold. "I'm sorry, I don't have the authority to reveal information about my race to outsiders." "All right." Ding Meng could only change his tone. "Are you from the Mao Xing civilization?" The Singularity was even more surprised. "You actually know about our civilization. Did this spiritual body tell you?" Ding Meng said, "Is Xinguang technology a product of your civilization?" The Singularity sighed. "That's right. We do belong to the Mao Xing civilization, one of the most powerful civilizations in the universe. Xinguang technology is also unique to us. However, the Mao Xing civilization was destroyed many years ago. My master also came here while fleeing." "Oh my God!" Ding Meng and Xiao AI gasped at the same time. If even the Mao Xing civilization had been destroyed, then there must be even more terrifying experts in the depths of the universe. They would not be as simple as traversing the universe with their physical bodies or shattering the starry skies with their fists. Those people would probably be truly domineering and invincible. Ding Meng continued to ask, "You said that the spiritual body imprint on my head is a spiritual body. What's its use?" The Singularity's tone was serious. "My race is a powerful and mysterious species in the universe. We won't truly die. After dying in the ordinary sense, we can exist in the form of a spiritual body. If the spiritual body also dies, then it will become an imprint and attach itself to the host it chooses. If the host dies and the host's spiritual body also dies, then the imprint will drift through the endless universe. As time passes, it will slowly wither after a long period of time. At that time, it will be considered truly dead." Ding Meng could not help but say, "But I'm not dead right now." The Singularity said, "The fact that this spiritual body imprint shows a human shows that you had an extraordinary connection and encounter with her when she was alive. The relationship between the two of you should be very deep." Ding Meng felt a lump in his throat. "She became an imprint because she wanted to keep me alive." The Singularity suddenly fell silent. However, Ding Meng felt that the other party was seriously examining him. After a long while, the Singularity said, "So in your body, you've actually cultivated my race's Diamond Star technique, Diamond Star fusion technique, Diamond Star sword technique, and other advanced techniques." Ding Meng was truly shocked this time. "You can even tell?" Chapter 4:15. Ding Meng was astonished, but the Singularity was even more astonished. His tone sounded as if he was sighing with emotion. "This spirit body's master chose you for a very deep reason." Ding Meng asked, "Why?" The Singularity said, "You are an origin ability user, and at the same time, a fluxer. In the human world, those who possess both abilities are extremely rare. From the perspective of civilization, you need several centuries of development before you can produce someone like you. From my scan, there is a substance similar to blood-green coral in your body. This is an extremely rare and precious spirit item in the universe. It is very difficult for it to fuse with life forms, especially high-level life forms. On the contrary, the success rate of its fusion with low-level life forms is relatively high." Ding Meng and Xiao AI listened quietly, not even daring to breathe loudly. "So the K-virus was created from this blood-green coral." The Singularity sighed and said, "The Creator is just that mystical. Although he bestowed talents and resources to high-level civilizations, he also bestowed opportunities and hope to low-level races. Thus, the Creator is always fair. Blood green coral is especially suitable for silicon-based life forms like you, but even so, the success rate of its fusion is pitifully small. However, you succeeded. It's no wonder that the spirit body's master chose you. He had basically deduced most of the secrets on Ding Meng's body. The singularity continued. The strange techniques you cultivate are all strange techniques that only the royal family of the Mao planet can possess, but you were able to cultivate them and even cast the ninth origin. This is the legendary Nine Heavens Star River art. It seems that the spirit body's master not only had a deep relationship with you when he was alive, but he also had high hopes for you. You can be considered half a Mao planet. He seemed to be mumbling to himself. I understand now. So the master's prophecy was about you. His words left Ding Meng dumbfounded. There were many unsolved mysteries about the K-virus, but he explained them clearly in a few words. Ding Meng became humble. Then, Mr. Singularity, if I want to restore the spirit-body imprint, may I ask what I need? The Singularity suddenly laughed. That's impossible. Ding Meng lowered his stance. The owner of the spirit body is very important to me. Even if I have to sacrifice myself to help her recover, I am willing to do so. You just have to tell me the method, please. The light of the Singularity flickered as if it was observing Ding Meng. After a long time, it sighed and said, "It seems that the relationship between the owner of the spirit body and you is beyond the scope of consciousness. Since you are so determined, I don't mind telling you that with your current weak ability, it is almost impossible for you to restore him." Ding Meng asked why. The Singularity explained, "You should know that the spirit body itself is a fragile form of energy. It needs a corresponding force field or a body to continue existing. With the current level of human technology, I have calculated that the spirit body can only be replaced by a mechanical body. Moreover, you have to ensure the energy source of this mechanical body. Although the spirit body of my race can attach itself to more types of things, it requires an extremely large amount of energy. With your current strength, you are considered outstanding in the human world, but in the Mao Xing race, you are not worth mentioning." Ding Meng hesitated. "You mean to say that my personal strength is not strong enough?" The Singularity said, "In theory, that is indeed the case. However, personal strength is also one of the conditions. If you did not cultivate the Diamond Star art and the Diamond Star Fusion art, to refine secondary and tertiary essences, the spirit body would not have been able to continue existing in your body. At present, it seems that the spirit body previously relied on your origin energy to exist." He paused for a moment before continuing, "If my judgment is correct, your origin energy was too weak when you first started cultivating. The spirit body could not be considered a true spirit body in the true sense of the word. It was probably after you constructed the eighth origin that the spirit body truly awakened and gained its own independent consciousness." Ding Meng hurriedly said, "That's right. That is exactly the case." The Singularity said, "There are only two situations in which the spirit body will fade into the spirit body imprint state. The first is when the host suffers a fatal attack. However, you said that the spirit body faded for your survival. That leaves only the second situation. The spirit body sacrificed itself to unlock the energy source of my race's divine light technology." Ding Meng sighed and said, "That is indeed the case." The Singularity said, "How much energy did you receive back then?" Ding Meng smiled bitterly and said, "I really have no way of calculating that." The Singularity changed its tone and said, "How about this? Describe to me what you used that energy source for?" Ding Meng pondered and said, "I injected it into the drive furnace of a mid-grade starship and then activated a wormhole to perform a space jump. I was randomly teleported to a place at least 200 light-years away, which is this place." The Singularity's tone sounded as if it was very surprised. In other words, this energy source was used to strengthen the starship's defenses and withstand the chaotic cosmic storms in the four-dimensional space. For a mid-grade human starship to dare use divine light energy to travel 200 light-years, it is truly a miracle that you are still alive. Wait a moment, let me do some calculations. Ding Meng did not dare to say that the Fuma True expedition was an outdated product of the Federation from decades ago. If he said that, even the Singularity would be shocked. After a long time, the Singularity said, "Let me put it this way. The amount of divine light energy you came into contact with back then was at least 3 times more than what I have here. Just now, you absorbed less than 1% of the energy you used to forge the origin in your body in the plaza. You must reach the equivalent amount of divine light energy that the spirit body unlocked back then. Only then can you fulfill the first condition of restoring the spirit body." Ding Meng and Xiao Ai were both dumbfounded. In other words, his strength had to be increased by 300 times. Roughly speaking, he would be at least at the level of a high-level battle saint. The Singularity seemed to know what he was thinking and took the initiative to say, "This is the difficult part. The lifespan of a human is short. Even if you continue to absorb energy and refine it, it will be very difficult for you to live to that age." Xiao Ai said, "Ding Meng, according to the certification standards of the Federal Empire, you are already at the level of a warlord." Ding Meng understood what she meant. He had activated the anti-gravity force field and cultivated for 10 years before he was promoted from an intermediate battlemaster to a beginner warlord. In other words, it was only 3 years. In between, there was still the gap between an intermediate warlord, an advanced warlord, a beginner battle saint, an intermediate battle saint, and an advanced battle saint. If the difficulty of promotion was factored in, he would need at least 80 years. By then, he would be over 100 years old. It must be known that Ding Meng was the king of cultivation speed in the Holy Grail Federation. If it were a normal origin ability user, they would not be able to reach that height even if they cultivated for 10,000 years. The Singularity said, "Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that you will obtain an opportunity to advance by leaps and bounds. If this condition is true, you will need to cultivate your diamond star-fusing art to the realm of perfection before you can restore your spirit body." Ding Meng frowned. "Does the realm of perfection refer to the realm of martial arts?" The Singularity disdainfully retorted, "Your understanding is too shallow. From this, it can be seen that your usage of the star-fusing mystic technique is still at a primitive stage." If it were anyone else who said this, Ding Meng and Xiao Ai would have immediately slapped their faces. However, the Singularity was still a member of the Divine Light System. He definitely had his reasons for making such a judgment. Ding Meng did not get angry. Instead, he humbly asked for guidance. "I'm still a little confused. Please enlighten me, Mr. Singularity." The Singularity sighed. "Alright, since you are also trying to restore your spirit body, I will explain it to you. Human origin ability users should be able to externalize their origin energy, right? You guys are using this in battle to create offensive or defensive effect. I want to say that this is really amateurish." Ding Meng curiously asked, "What does the true externalization of origin energy look like?" The Singularity said, "Origin energy is the true energy of this universe. It can create origins, incubate life, and transform the world. It can be said to be omnipotent. By the same logic, origin energy users who absorb it should be able to do the same. For example, if you're a thermal origin energy user, the origin energy you release should at least be in the form of light and fire. When you cultivate to a certain level, your origin energy can take the form of magma, true fire, electromagnetic radiation, and so on. Origin energy can take the form of solid matter. For those experts from the Great God civilization, when they release their origin energy, it will be in the form of a blazing sun. Not only can they destroy powerful enemies, but they can also nurture life. They are the true kings of the universe. When they release their origin energy, they can even form a star system or a sea of stars. When they release their origin energy, they can extend for hundreds of thousands of light years or even millions of light years. Ding Meng was dumbfounded. How is that possible? The singularity said, How is it not possible? You are just ignorant. I can give you another example that you can understand. In the human world, there is a substance that you guys call the inverse origin crystal, right? Ding Meng nodded and said, Yes, that is a precious cultivation resource for origin energy users. Precious cultivation resource. The singularity laughed disdainfully. Let me tell you, the things you guys treat as treasures are trash in the eyes of the Mao civilization. They are just like the sand on Madison. What use can they have? Ding Meng smiled bitterly and said, Of course. After all, you guys are an advanced civilization. The singularity said solemnly, I do not mean to look down on your human civilization. It is just that your knowledge is too shallow and narrow. Gold should be a relatively common substance in the universe, right? If you humans want to explore gold mines, you first have to determine the location of the mine, then excavate the passage, collect the ore, clean the dirt on the ore, and finally use machinery to extract and refine the pure gold. Of course, you can also modify and process the gold into exquisite ornaments, right? Ding Meng could only nod. The singularity laughed again. Let me tell you, your so-called inverse origin crystal is just the dirt on the surface of the ore. In those advanced civilizations, they do not want this dirt. What they want is the gold in it. That is what is really useful to them. As for the dirt and sand, how do they deal with it? That's why you'll often find so-called inverse source crystals near low-level civilizations in the remote corners of the universe. That's the garbage abandoned by God-level civilizations in the universe and eventually drifted to your region. Hearing up to here, Ding Meng was truly shocked to the extreme. Chapter 4:16. Seeing Ding Meng's confused expression, the singularity sighed again. The inverse source crystal is a solid state formed by the accumulation of the energy in the universe over a long period of time. I'm giving you these examples because I want you to understand that since you can absorb the energy of the inverse source crystal, you can also release the energy and restore it to a solid state. When the day comes when you can release your source energy to this extent, I'll congratulate you. You won't need me to teach you the trick. You'll naturally know how to restore this spirit. Ding Meng was silent. After a long time, he said, According to your theory of gold, the inverse source crystal is just a grain of sand. Then what level is Xinguang technology? The singularity sighed even harder. I really don't want to discourage you, but if the divine light energy of our Mao Xing civilization can be compared to a piece of exquisite jewelry that has been modified and put up for auction at an auction, the spirit unlocked the divine light energy for you back then. You should have a preliminary understanding of how difficult it is for you, right? Ding Meng said, It's indeed very difficult. The singularity said, It's good that you understand how difficult it is. Instead of wasting your time and energy on this, you might as well do something else meaningful. Ding Meng said, You're wrong. I won't give up. The singularity was stunned. Why is a human like you so stubborn? I've already explained it to you in such detail, yet you still won't give up? Ding Meng shook his head and said, Nothing in this world is difficult for those who set their minds on it. If I give up, then she'll never be restored. As long as I'm willing to persevere, even if she can't be restored in the end, she'll know that I'm working hard and that there's still hope for her. That's the most important thing. When she sacrificed herself, she thought of letting me live on so that there would be endless possibilities in the future. Now that I'm alive, even if I die without leaving a trace, I won't give up hope for her recovery. I also have a feeling that she hasn't left and has been following me all this time. The singularity flickered again. It seemed to have been infected by Ding Meng's emotions and could not help but sigh. No wonder this spirit chose to attach itself to you. You are really very different from other humans. Although you are rigid and stubborn, you command respect. Alright, don't be discouraged. My authority allows me to tell you that your feelings are not wrong. The spirit has collapsed inside the mark. In the words of you humans, she has fallen into a state of eternal dormancy. Until the day you become truly powerful arrives, she will automatically be reactivated and reunite with you. Ding Meng's eyes lit up. No wonder. I felt that she hadn't really left. The singularity said, but there is one thing that I must remind you of. The spirit attached to you is very unusual. He was only in the spirit form, but he was able to unlock the divine light energy in the strange formation. Many normal people of the planet Mao are unable to do this. When this spirit was in the form of a planet Mao, he was probably extraordinary. Ding Meng was excited. Could it be that she can return to her Mao planet form? Yes, she can. The singularity replied. But this time, you don't have to argue with me. It's impossible no matter what. The difficulty is so great that I can't describe it to you. Even the powerhouses of the Mao planet civilization find it difficult to do. If one day you can return her to her spirit form, I'd like to thank you for everything you've done for her. Ding Meng did not answer. In his mind, as long as little rascal could exist in her spirit form and chat and play with him and Xiao AI every day, he would be very satisfied. As for returning to a real Mao planet being, that was beyond his ability and understanding. The singularity said, well, since you've seen me, then the problem of Planet Madison has been solved. Jun Ling said in surprise, solved? But you didn't do anything. The singularity smiled. When I was set up, my ultimate mission was to ensure the safety of Planet Madison. I'll take responsibility and say that Planet Madison is now safe. This. Jun Ling was speechless. The singularity said, before I leave, I have a few things to give you. Jun Ling could not help but ask, you're leaving? The singularity said, of course I'm leaving. This strange formation has been activated, and the command has been activated. The event recorder has already informed me that the mission is complete. Once the mission is over, the strange formation will completely shut down and everything will enter annihilation. Ding Meng said, what does annihilation mean? Do you mean death? The singularity smiled. Little guy, you still have a lot to learn. In your eyes, I'm indeed about to die, but in reality, I'll be transported to the depths of the sea of stars to meet up with my master. The divine light energy will also be transported away? Ding Meng felt that it was a pity. The singularity seemed to know what he was thinking. The two of you should be satisfied because you've already maximized your absorption of the energy. In such a short period of time, you've already achieved great growth. Absorbing too much of the divine light energy from this strange formation will be harmful to you. All right. Ding Meng also understood that Xinguang technology was something that could only be encountered by chance. Being insatiable was not a good thing. At least he had gained something by coming here. At least he knew how to restore Little Rascal. What do you have to give us? The air immediately began to ripple. A blue light flashed in the ripples, and two bronze-colored objects were formed. Upon closer inspection, they looked like two alloy wrist guards. The singularity said to Jun Ling, these two weapons were used by my master when he was young. Its aura is very compatible with your characteristics. My master once said that when Mo Ye's descendants come here in the future, they must choose one from the armory and give it to you as a gift to commemorate his friendship with the Mo Ye people. After saying that, the wrist automatically flew to Jun Ling, and with a kacha sound it was put on her wrist. From the outside, it looked really ordinary, no different from the accessories she wore, but Jun Ling's eyes suddenly revealed a fanatical light. The singularity then turned to Ding Meng. I chose this based on your characteristics. Now, please remove your armor. After putting the prototype back into the rainbow satchel, the wrist guards automatically flew to Ding Meng's wrist. This wrist guard was different from Jun Ling's. It was like a piece of rough tree bark embedded in Ding Meng's arm. It also looked ordinary, but Ding Meng immediately felt a large amount of information surge into his brain. It was all about the wrist guard's various descriptions. At the same time, the wrist guard also had a strange suction force that was absorbing the energy in his body. The Singularity explained, "Don't be nervous. It is a rechargeable strategic weapon. Although it is absorbing your energy, it is also transforming this energy into Shenguang energy. In the end, it will feed back to you. After all, you have cultivated the Mao Xing miracle technique. It just so happens that it complements the star-fusing diamond." Ding Meng almost instantly understood how to use this weapon. He was the same as Junling, completely unable to suppress the excitement in his heart. The Singularity continued, "The reason I gave this weapon to you is, of course, in the hope that your wish will come true. Restore the spiritual imprint on your forehead. If you really become strong, there will come a day when you will encounter other races. Our Mao Xing civilization also has many allies in the universe. If they see your weapon, they will naturally not make an enemy out of you. There is also another reason." The ripples in the air produced a black memory chip the size of a thumb. Ding Meng could not help but be surprised. "Your technology is so powerful. Don't tell me you still use the memory chips of our human world?" The Singularity smiled. "This is for your convenience. Our method of processing information does not require memory chips at all. This is part of the Sanctum's map." It was the Sanctum's map again. Ding Meng already had a certain level of understanding of this thing. Back then, the Droplet and Chu Mingliang had been waiting for the Sanctum's map. One had been hiding on the Divine Light starship for decades, while the other had been scheming and plotting. It seemed that this Sanctum's map was of great importance. The Singularity explained, "My master fled here in order to prevent the Sanctum's map from falling into the hands of the enemy." The Singularity's master must be so strong that Ding Meng could not imagine. If even such a strong person had to flee, one could only imagine how terrifying the enemy was. Ding Meng could not help but ask, "When your master left Madison, why didn't he take the map with him?" The Singularity smiled and said, "Because the map was not safe with him. There were too many enemies tracking him. It was safer to leave the map here because no one would think that the map was kept in the hands of a weak civilization. With Madison's remote location, advanced civilizations would not even take a look at this place. There was also a reason why the ancient memory chip was used to store the map. If he was unfortunately captured, the memory chip could be destroyed at any time to prevent the map from falling into the hands of the enemy." Ding Meng could not help but sigh. "Your master is really meticulous." The Singularity's tone was very proud. "Of course, strong people are very thorough in their considerations. However, now that I'm about to leave, and you have fate with our Mao Xing civilization, the task of preserving the map will naturally be handed to you. If there's a chance in the future, please hand the map over to the Mao Xing civilization's experts. If not, please throw the memory chip into the depths of the endless sea of stars. Let it disappear into the abyss rather than let the enemy take it." "Don't worry, I'll do it." Ding Meng thought to himself that he already had 2 Sanctum's maps on him. What's the use of this map? The Singularity sighed. "Sorry, I don't have enough authority. I don't know what it's used for. I only know one thing, and that is because of the Sanctum's map. My master has attracted the pursuit of many strong enemies. I believe that it should be related to a very important secret." Ding Meng shrugged. "All right, I have to admit that your master has attracted the firepower for us so that we can develop." The Singularity said, "That's more or less what I mean. It's good that you understand." Ding Meng said, "Then, will I be able to contact you in the future? Or will I be able to contact the Mao Xing civilization in the future?" The Singularity smiled. "Don't worry about one thing. If you grow, you won't even need to contact us. Countless people will find you. Alright, the time of annihilation is almost up. It's not safe for you to stay here. I'll send you out. Chapter 4:17. With a swoosh, Ding Meng and Little Red's vision blurred. In the next second, he realized that he had returned to the cave. You're back so soon? Elephant and Little Arrow immediately came up to them. Junling was a little puzzled. Soon. Zinkong walked over. How many minutes have you been in there? You came out so quickly. How was it? Did the mother absorb the energy? Junling had now seen the power of Xinguang biotechnology. They had spent a day in the warehouse, but only a few minutes had passed outside. But as soon as Zinkong finished speaking, the central teleportation portal flashed. The mother body in the form of a bird of light flapped its wings and flew out. As soon as it came out, the 20 eyes of light spun rapidly like a vortex and began to shrink. Then they turned into 20 points of light. A fine line of light extended from each point of light to connect them. Finally, the circle shrank into a point. It seemed that the portal had really teleported them away. Ding Meng could not even sense a trace of fluctuation. Junling looked curiously at the bird of light. Why didn't Xinguang biotechnology teleport you away? The bird of light flapped its wings and flew to the back of Junling's hand. It replied in Junling's voice, I'm too weak now. I haven't completely left the incubation period. If Xinguang biotechnology opened a wormhole into the four-dimensional space, the chaotic storm would tear me to pieces. So they chased me out. Zinkong was shocked. This guy, could it be the mother body? The bird of light flapped its wings again. That's right. This is my fourth form. Elephant and Little Arrow also looked at it in surprise. The three of them clearly could not understand this change. The bird of light flew directly to Junling's shoulder. You have to protect me now. Big Arrow replied bluntly, Why should we? The bird of light said, The changes brought about by my form are recovery and healing. If you don't believe me, go up and take a look. Let's go. Junling was the first to take the lead. Everyone quickly returned the way they came. Before they climbed out of the cave, they could already see the light above. When they climbed out, Junling immediately showed a long-lost smile. At this moment, the night had dissipated, and Stony Plain, which had been shrouded in darkness all year round, could finally see the bright sky. Although there were still patches of dark clouds in the sky that blocked the sunlight, this change proved that what the light bird said was true. Planet Madison was showing signs of recovery. Even though the stone plains were still bare, green grass was already stubbornly sticking out from the cracks in the ground in the distance. Patches of green symbolized the reappearance of life. Elephant and Little Arrow couldn't help but raise their heads and cheer. Junling also nodded in satisfaction. This day has finally come. Light Bird said, I won't leave for the time being. I can restore Madison. When this place becomes a grassland, I can absorb as much green vitality as I want. This kind of healthy aura will help me grow. When the time is right, I will travel in the universe. Alright, I hope you can fulfill your promise. Junling was deeply moved for a moment. After fighting with the mother for so many years, it was only now that peace had been exchanged. The price he had paid for this was not small. Light Bird said, But now is not the time for you to be happy. Junling frowned. Why? Light Bird said, Although I am very weak right now, my perception is far stronger than yours. Someone is one step ahead of Gao Sunday. Professor Yang has already called for reinforcements. We can't go back to Health Town. The Light Bird did not spout nonsense. At this moment, in space, a majestic-looking giant starship was slowly approaching planet McGrady. This Battle Dragon class starship looked a little like an aircraft carrier in the sea. It was a large starship with a strategic role, and it could accommodate many shipboard units. Even if Light Bird had not evolved to the fourth form, it would still be difficult for her to resist this giant ship. After the giant ship entered the atmosphere, it headed straight for Health Town. It was parked on the grassland like a steel fortress embedded in the ground. There was almost no one left in Health Town. All the origin ability users had died in the previous battle. Only Mei Ling and the other non-combat artificial bodies were left. However, these people posed no threat to Yang Wei and the others. After the connecting cabin of the giant ship opened, a group of fully armed soldiers surrounded 3 imposing men walked out of the cabin. Yang Wei led the 6 strong men and immediately greeted them. When he saw Yang Wei, who was covered in dust, the short man on the far left could not help but laugh. Wei, I heard that you have been quietly making money all these years. Why did you suddenly gather us today? Have you found a new way to make money? Yang Wei's expression was a little awkward. Blind, don't mention it. If it weren't for the fact that I had to run away, would I have called my old friends over? When it comes to making money, can I compare to Cheng Long and the others? The man named Cheng Long laughed. Brag all you want. Golden Shield has paid you a lot over the years. You have earned enough. The man on the far right of the group was taller, but his face was very ugly. It was a standard horseface, which always gave people a feeling of malice. Horseface said in a low voice, Wei, we haven't seen each other for more than 20 years. How is your research? Have you made any progress? Yang Wei sighed. It's so. It's not very effective. However, Xing Kang's bone armor technology is better. He did not dare to reveal the matter of the mother body. These 3 old friends in front of him were all people who made a living in the God Wars starfield. If the matter of the mother body was spread in the God Wars starfield, this place would probably explode. Therefore, when he sent out the distress signal just now, he only said that he was in trouble and did not reveal the real situation on planet Madison. Even so, the battle dragon ship arrived on planet Madison in just a few hours. Yang Wei also knew that he owed them a big favor. No matter where Cheng Long and the others came from, the manpower, money, and material resources needed to be mobilized once was not a small amount. Brother Zhong, do you want to bring Wei back? Or walk around? Horseface turned to look at the man in the middle. This person was a little old. Like Ing Chengli, one side of his hair and beard was white. His face was firm and his eyes were flickering. Just by looking at his appearance, one could tell that he was a shrewd person. Brother Zhong pondered and said, Wei, we also met the fleet of the Golden Shield Alliance on the way here, but you don't have to worry. They won't dare to do anything to us. Everyone knows the leader, Hu Xiang and Gao Sunday. Although we don't usually interact with each other, we've all seen each other before. It's not a big deal. I think they'll be here soon. I'll say hello to them later and then leave. What do you think? Yang Wei sighed. Okay. It was hard for him not to agree. In any case, they had come all the way here to rescue him. It was not appropriate for them to not meet the Golden Shield Alliance. Yang Wei actually knew how powerful the Golden Shield Alliance was. Although this alliance was not a mainstream sect on the God Wars starfield, it was still a second-rate alliance in the God Wars starfield. It was just that their way of doing things was a little extreme. Many years ago, he was indeed asked to stay here by Little Arrow's grandfather. It was not until Xing Kang's arrival and the people of the Golden Shield Alliance came to him that he agreed to cooperate. He clearly knew that cooperating with this alliance was very risky, but he could not resist the temptation of genetic modification technology. In the end, more than 20 years had passed, and in the end, it was all for Xing Kang. Thinking about this made him angry. However, the ultimate goal of the Golden Shield Alliance was the mother. He really did not want to be involved in such a terrifying matter. However, Brother Zhong did not want to leave immediately. He could only wait patiently. In any case, reinforcements had arrived, so he was temporarily safe. The Golden Shield Alliance did not make them wait for too long. After about half a day, 8 starships appeared in the sky. Gao Sun's interceptor ship, whose shell was riddled with holes by countless bone spears, was among them. Other than that, the other 7 ships were 3 frigates, 2 patrol ships, 1 assault ship, and 1 supply ship. Looking at this configuration, it was clear what the Golden Shield Alliance's intentions were. They were obviously prepared to be stationed here for a long time. They had to take down the mother body. The logic behind this could be understood by everyone. The Golden Shield Alliance had spent so much time, effort, and power. It was impossible for them to give up just because the mother was strong. No matter how strong a demon beast was, could it be stronger than a combined fleet? The 8 starships also stopped on the grassland and lined up in a row. The leaders were Hu Xiang, Gao Sun, Ming Bang, Xing Jia, and the others. Hu Xiang was obviously older. He was about the same size as Qing Long. He was short and muscular, and his steps were steady and powerful. His aura was also quite extraordinary. One look and one could tell that he was used to giving orders. Hu Xiang smiled when he saw Yang Wei and the others. I was wondering who came to this place. It turns out that it's Brother Zhong. What an honor. A strange smile appeared on Brother Zhong's face. Old Hu is leading the team personally. Your alliance is getting stronger and stronger. You're sending out a complete fleet. Galactic refugees like us can't compare to you. Hu Xiang laughed. Brother Zhong, you must be joking. Who in the outer space doesn't know that Brother Zhong is a real brother? We're all working to make a living. How can we compare to you, Brother Zhong? You can do whatever you want. Brother Zhong smiled and said, Madison is so remote. I wonder what could make you come here, old Hu? After all, he did not understand the changes in the current situation. Therefore, when he asked this question, Hu Xiang immediately judged that this group of pirates did not fully understand the situation on Madison. Therefore, he replied, What big thing can it be? We just invited 2 professors to study some technology here. His answer made Yang Wei secretly anxious. Yang Wei knew very well that the Golden Shield Alliance would never allow anyone who knew the secrets to leave alive. Brother Zhong and the others were not fools. As pirates, as long as there was money, they would never let go of it. Therefore, even if Hu Xiang was telling the truth, it was almost inevitable that it would arouse suspicion. How remote was the location of Madison? How barren was this place? You brought a fleet here at the drop of a hat. Did you say that you were studying technology? There was nothing good here. It would be strange if you brought it here. That was what Brother Zhong thought, but he would never say it out loud. Old Hu Wei is an old friend of my brother's for many years. He said that it was more dangerous here, so we came to pick him up. Your alliance has worked with him for many years, so it shouldn't be a problem for us to come uninvited, right? Hu Xiang smiled and said, What problem can there be? Brother Zhong can do this with just a word. Brother Zhong also smiled. But we're a little tired from the long journey. We'll leave after a short rest. What do you think? Hu Xiang's eyes flashed. It's a small matter. Brother Zhong, you can leave at any time. Brother Zhong's eyes also flashed. In that case, since we're already here, we'll leave after walking around. Both of their words were sharp. If one listened carefully, they would understand that these 2 groups of people were not easy to deal with. Each of them had their own plans. Chapter 4:18. The Golden Shield Alliance's fleet would not waste any time after they arrived. The majority of the fleet moved quickly. However, the changes in Stony Plain were obvious. The night had disappeared, and the electromagnetic field in the sky had also disappeared. The entire land was green again. These changes did not need to be observed carefully as the starship's quantum radar could see them directly. Therefore, the fleet's docking location was directly shifted from Health Town to the center of Stony Plain. After confirming that the ground was safe, batches of soldiers and armored robots began to gather at the 10 underground holes. Brother Zhong and the others said that they were going to take a stroll, but in reality, they were shamelessly following behind Hu Xiang's group. Now that the search operation had begun, many robots went underground. Then, the soldiers and staff followed in an orderly manner. Hu Xiang and the others did not go down. They waited on the ground for news. Seeing Brother Zhong and the others looking around, Hu Xiang could not help but laugh. Brother Zhong, it's rare for you to come to such a faraway place. Why don't you go down for a stroll? Brother Zhong laughed dryly. Haha, I'm just here to take a look. Don't worry, I won't delay Brother Hu from making a fortune. Hu Xiang laughed. I'm just afraid that there's nothing valuable down there. Although he was laughing, he actually had a bad feeling. He knew the situation on planet Madison. Dark, damp, cold, monsters, and killing were all combined together. However, the changes were now right in front of them. These changes were not what the Golden Shield Alliance wanted to see. At the very least, everyone present was an expert, and no one could sense a trace of a monster's aura. Hu Xiang turned to look at Gao Sunday. Gao Sun's expression was also quite complicated. He shook his head slightly, meaning that in the short day he was away, the mother must have changed. After a long time, the captain in charge of the search climbed up from the hole. What's the situation? Gao Sun asked impatiently. The captain frowned. Director Gao, we've searched carefully. There's nothing down there. Gao Sun was surprised. Are you sure? The captain nodded affirmatively. I'm sure. There's really nothing down there. This. Gao Sun was dumbfounded. Could it be that the monkey army he saw a day ago was fake? Hu Xiang hesitated. The mother has left? That's impossible. Gao Sun denied. It doesn't have the ability to fly. Besides, there are no flying units on planet Madison. He seemed to have thought of something and asked the search captain again, Did you find Professor Xingkong? The search captain shook his head and said, No, we can't even detect a trace of a person's aura. Gao Sun's face darkened. Then there's only one possibility. Xingkong is with the locals. Either he found the mother and took it away, or Ingchungli's ship should be docked on an island. If they want to leave, that's the only way. Hu Xiang decisively ordered, Let's go. Everyone, retreat to the sea. Before they take off, let's get the mother body before they escape. 8 starships rose to the sky quickly and rushed toward the ocean with crystal flames spurting out. Hu Xiang's group left with their starship, leaving Brother Zhong and his men no longer able to follow them. Forget it, let's retreat. Qing Long shook his head helplessly. This place is too lousy. I don't think there's anything worth fishing for. Horse Face agreed. When we came here, we found that there was only one town. Why don't we rest at Weizi's lighthouse? Brother Zhong pondered for a moment and said, Then let's go. The lighthouse in Health Town was actually not a real lighthouse. It was a modified version of Yang Wei's spaceship that had crashed many years ago. To put it bluntly, the spaceship had been blown into pieces, and only the bridge was left. Therefore, Yang Wei found a way to erect the bridge in the air. As the bridge was not complete, Yang Wei simply divided the huge command hall into 2. He modified half of it into the research hall, and the other half into a spaceport for small spaceships to take off and land. Brother Zhong and the others piloted the small spaceship to the spaceport, and the group swaggered into the research hall. This hall was quite similar to Xing Kang's research center. Xing Kang's hall was filled with bone samples, but Yang Wei's research center was filled with transparent nutrition cabins. Inside the cabins were the torsos and limbs of monsters. It was a large area of colorful and creepy-looking. The group walked to the innermost lounge. Brother Zhong and his men had good taste. Although the conditions here were simple, the energy used to maintain the equipment was not bad at all. The entire research hall was about the size of Health Town, and there were at least 5,000 to 6,000 nutrition cabins stored in this hall. One had to know that the body samples of monsters were not like that of humans. Energy had to be supplied 24 hours a day so that the limbs and claws would not mutate and rot. Yang Wei himself definitely did not have so much energy, so it was obvious that the Golden Shield Alliance had put in a lot of effort to maintain this place. Pirates might not have other skills, but they often had good taste. Qing Long was the first to speak. Weizi, your genetic modification technology seems to be progressing well. Yang Wei shook his head. It's still not as fast as Xing Kang's bone armor technology. Horseface said in a low voice, It doesn't matter if it's fast or slow, as long as it's effective. Yang Wei was not a fool. He immediately sensed that something was wrong from their conversation. Sure enough, Brother Zhong quickly said, Weizi, you've worked with the Golden Shield Alliance for so many years. I also feel that it's not worth it for you to work so hard just to find a way. Are you saying that your research is for nothing? Brother Zhong's brain was really good. Even though he didn't know what Hu Xiang was looking for, he could tell from Hu Xiang's disdainful attitude towards Yang Wei that Hu Xiang no longer needed Yang Wei. Everyone was well aware of the Golden Shield Alliance's attitude towards those who did not need them but knew their secrets. If he said that Yang Wei's research was for nothing, then it was really for nothing. It was very simple. Did you dare to sell this technology on the God Wars Star Ring? As long as you dared to announce it, the Big Six would have plenty of ways to deal with your inhumane technology. Yang Wei hesitated. Brother Zhong, what do you mean? Brother Zhong smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Weizi, we're all friends. It's a pity that your talent is wasted like this. Why don't you give it to us? That way, you won't have to waste your years of research, Qing Long hurriedly added. As for the cost? You see, it's not easy for us brothers to come here. We've all used short-distance space to come here. Hundreds of brothers need to eat and drink, and the energy consumption is so high. We can't afford it. Weizi, can you help me this time? Yang Wei's mind was as clear as day. He finally understood. His old friends saw that Madison was remote and barren, and there was nothing worth selling. However, they were not willing to come here for nothing, so they came up with the wrong idea. They wanted to take the genetic modification technology for themselves without paying a single cent. This technology would definitely be destroyed in the God Wars Star Ring, but it might not be in the hands of the pirate. They could use this to do a lot of things. But so what? Even if the technology was given to them, they might not be able to use it. Yang Wei wanted to answer, but he was in a bad situation now. He braced himself and said, Brother Zhong, let me think about it. Brother Zhong smiled gently and kindly. I hope you don't take too long. Once you're done, we'll be on our way. At this moment, a cold voice came from the lounge. What a good word to use. Everyone was shocked. No one thought that there would be someone in this place. Yang Wei was the first to rush in. After taking a closer look, he couldn't help but be furious. Tsing Kong, how did you sneak in here? On the sofa in the lounge, Tsing Kong was sitting leisurely. He replied calmly, It's good that you're a bitch. A bitch is better than a useless person. Is this how your friends treat you? If Tsing Kong was here, then Ding Meng and the others must be here too. Even Fujin Zhen, Shuiyu Mountain, Junior Leopard, Qin Qin and Lian Li were here. Obviously, Ding Meng and the others would not sit still and wait for death. They would definitely think of a way to take action. You're not dead. Yang Wei was a little surprised, but he was more surprised by the light bird on Junling's shoulder. Unfortunately, the mother was now in its fourth form. It had completely shed its demonic beast aura. Yang Wei and the others could only recognize that the light bird was an unknown spiritual object. But so what? Brother Zhong and the others' eyes immediately lit up. Qing Long stepped forward and smiled. Little friends, how should I address you? It could not be helped. Ding Meng and the others were all 24 or 25 years old. In the eyes of Brother Zhong and the others, these natives were all children. However, Brother Zhong and the others were also vigilant. The aura of this group of children was really aggressive. It was quite sharp and imposing. Junling said proudly, You don't have to call me that. The little bird on my shoulder is what the Golden Shield Alliance wants. This. Yang Wei was dumbfounded. He could not figure out how the fierce and powerful mother became like this, but his intuition told him that Junling was not lying. First of all, Junling was not the kind of person to lie. Secondly, the changes on the stone plane explained everything. Junling continued, The people of the Golden Shield Alliance should have found the butcher by now. We have already left a signal for them to come here and talk. Talk? Brother Zhong frowned. Miss, I don't understand what you mean. Junling said, What I mean is, now the highest bidder will get it. These words were really concise. The mother had fallen into her hands. She was now the seller. If the buyers wanted it, then they had to pay. Qing Long took 2 steps forward. Miss, you might not know who we are. Junling stared at him. And who are you? Qing Long sneered. We can turn you from a seller to a buyer at any time. As soon as his voice fell, he pulled out a phantom image and rushed toward Junling. His speed was like a ghost. It was obvious that he was a light speed expert. Chapter 419. Qing Long rushed out like a whirlwind towards Junling. At the same time, his 5 fingers bent into a claw and grabbed at Junling's shoulder. His wrist was still twisting vaguely. Clearly, he had a backup plan. This move and grab was very natural and smooth. It was enough to show that not only did he have deep training in martial arts, but he also had a lot of combat experience. Unfortunately, he had met a ruthless character with combat experience that even Ding Meng had to admit defeat. Seeing that the light bird was about to be taken away by Qing Long, Junling suddenly raised his left hand and rotated his wrist. The dagger spun in front of the light bird to protect it. Many people who used a dagger knew this technique. As long as one's reaction and hand speed were fast enough, the opponent would send their wrist to the blade. What a small trick! Qing Long thought disdainfully. He was about to use Xuanpo when he suddenly realized that there were figures behind Junling Elephant, and Little Arrow stepped forward at the same time and surrounded Junling from both sides. As long as he dared to dodge, he would not be sending his wrist to the blade. Instead, he would be facing Elephant's casserole-sized fist and Little Arrow's sharp blade. Qing Long indeed used Xuanpa, but he did not flash behind Junling. Instead, he flashed back to his original position. Brother Zhong and Horseface could not help but look at each other. This group of natives really had some tricks up their sleeve. Their prediction and cooperation were quite outstanding. Qing Long was a little embarrassed after standing still, but Brother Zhong immediately smiled. Miss, how much do you want to sell this bird? Junling did not answer. Instead, it was Zheng Kong who answered. That depends on when you're on your way. Brother Zhong was stunned again. He really did not understand this time. Your starship is not bad. Ding Meng finally spoke. Brother Zhong and the other 2 secretly gasped. Wasn't this group of natives too greedy? They actually dared to have designs on the pirate starship. Horseface's expression was a little ugly. Friend, you mean, the bird on the little girl's shoulder that can only glow is more valuable than the starship below. You're wrong. A voice came from the hall far away. I should be talking about that bird of hers. All the ships in this place are just scrap metal. They're worthless. Ding Meng secretly nodded at Junling. Everything was going as they had expected. However, the Golden Shield Alliance was fast enough to return in such a short time. The door to the lounge was pushed open, and Hu Xiang, Ming Bang, and Xing Jia walked in. As soon as he saw the light bird on Junling's shoulder, Hu Xiang's gaze was reluctant to move elsewhere. He seemed to be carefully observing the light bird. He also couldn't figure out why the mother body had become this form. Brother Zhong suddenly laughed. Old Hu, are you sure this thing is worth so much? Hu Xiang smiled and said, It's not up to us to decide whether it's valuable or not. We'll only know its value after we bring it back. As soon as he came in, he found that Yang Wei and Xing Kong didn't make much noise. Especially Yang Wei, who stayed quietly in place without saying a word. He knew in his heart that this light bird was most likely the real mother body. If it wasn't, with Yang Wei's character, he would have jumped out to refute immediately. Hu Xiang smiled and looked at Xing Kong. Professor, you've worked hard for so many years. We've finally found our target. The higher-ups have agreed to your request. This time, we'll bring you back and let you reunite with your family. Xing Kang's face was cold and he didn't answer. Hu Xiang turned to Yang Wei. Professor Yang, thank you very much for your efforts over the years. We'll transfer the last contract payment to you as agreed. Do you want to go back with us? Yang Wei was also expressionless. Brother Zhong smiled and said, Old Hu, you've forgotten one thing. Now they're going to sell it to us. The highest bidder will get it. The highest bidder will get it? Hu Xiang was very surprised. He turned to look at Junling again. He looked at the group of natives who were almost naked with interest. Are you sure you want to sell it? Junling smelled a hint of unfriendliness from his words. She was also a little unhappy. From your tone, it seems like this thing belongs to you? It originally belonged to our Golden Shield Alliance. Hu Xiang stared at her coldly. What right do you have to sell it? Junling glanced at him. Do you know how many people on Madison were killed by this thing? Hu Xiang's tone was completely cold. Can I take it that you're threatening me? Junling was even more unhappy. Do you think it belongs to your Golden Shield Alliance just because you say so? I only know one thing. It's in my hands now, so it's mine. If you want it, then give me a sincere price. Listen carefully, it's best if you're sincere. If you're not, then I'm sorry, I'll sell it to anyone but you. Hu Xiang's face turned pale. His position in the Golden Shield Alliance was higher than Gao Sun's. When had he ever been scolded like this? What's more, you're just a local savage. Hu Xiang took a deep breath and said patiently, What do you want? Tell me. Junling said, First, leave your supply ship. The supplies on it should be left in Health Town. Sing Jia could not help but ask, why? Junling said, Madison caused so many casualties and the environment is so seriously polluted. It's not too much for me to ask for supplies. Gao's son asked calmly, What about the second thing? Junling stretched out 2 fingers. 8 billion God points. The virtual electronic currency circulating in the Divine Battlefield was called Divine Battlefield Credits, or God points for short. It was used in the entire galaxy. Even the pirate territory in outer space recognized this kind of credit. Hu Xiang and the other two's faces were as ugly as death. It was obvious that they would not accept this price. Junling continued, Third, I want to take your starship to Star Ring. These words must have been taught to her by Ding Meng in advance. The reason was very simple. What Junling said now was the truth, not a single word was false. But Ding Meng calculated that these 2 groups of people were not good people, and would definitely suspect her side's true motives. Hu Xiang also seemed to be expressionless. Anything else? Junling said, No more. Hu Xiang was about to speak, but this time, Brother Zhong smiled and said, Little girl, is your condition suitable for us? Junling said, You have an idea? Brother Zhong smiled. How about this, I'll pay 10 billion God points. What do you think? Hu Xiang and the other two's expressions changed. These pirates were here to cause trouble. Putting aside the fact that Brother Zhong might not be able to fork out so much money, it would be troublesome if the mother body fell into Brother Zhong's hands and he sold it to the Golden Shield Alliance at a higher price. Hu Xiang smiled again. There's only one bad thing about this price. Brother Zhong said, What is it? Hu Xiang said, Money that can't be called real money if it's not in the bag. Brother Zhong also smiled. Are you doubting my ability to buy? Hu Xiang was still smiling. I'm not doubting it, but you don't have the ability. Brother Zhong smiled and said, Ability is not something that can be proven with money. Hu Xiang's eyes flashed. Money is not made with just words. These 2 people both had a characteristic in their words, and that was that they liked to use underhanded tactic. However, this time, even little Elephant Arrow could see that these 2 guys were quarreling, but in reality they were about to fight. Brother Zhong smiled and said, But ideas can't be bought with money. Before he could finish his sentence, Brother Zhong suddenly stepped on the steel plate on the ground without warning. This step was quite powerful. Almost everyone who was standing lost their balance and swayed. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Brother Zhong threw a punch at Hu Xiang's face. His fist was red all over. Clearly, he was a thermodynamic ability user. There was nothing fancy about this punch. It was simple, crude, fast, and direct. As an old pirate, he paid particular attention to practicality and effectiveness. Thus, when this punch was thrown, Hu Xiang was also caught off guard. His chest was hit with a thump, and his whole body swayed again. Brother Zhong's sudden attack was successful. Qing Long and Horseface immediately rushed forward. Their targets were very clear, Gao Sun and Xing Jia. The lounge immediately trembled, and the tables and chairs were shattered. Ding Meng and the others did not participate in the fight. They silently retreated to the door. Hu Xiang's reaction after being hit was not very fast. Brother Zhong took advantage of the fact that Hu Xiang had not yet regained his footing and clenched his fists together to form a fist and smashed it fiercely on Hu Xiang's forehead. There was still a thump sound, but this time, the fist did not hit Hu Xiang's real body. A layer of light white plating suddenly appeared on Hu Xiang's uniform. After the plating was hit, it was like a divine crystal being touched and left a mark. Then, various patterns flashed and energy flowed in the plating. It was obvious that Hu Xiang was using a cultivation method or a martial arts technique. Ding Meng only needed a glance to determine that this Hu Xiang was a strong body type origin ability user. This plating should be a martial arts technique similar to Origin Shield. Brother Zhong was a little surprised that Hu Xiang was not knocked down by 2 consecutive punches. Usually, everyone said that there were many strong people in the Golden Shield Alliance. This Hu Xiang was not even the core of the group, yet he could not beat him. This was a little bit too arrogant. Brother Zhong almost instantly completely activated his origin ability. Not only were his fists red, but his whole body was also ignited with origin ability flames. He rushed forward and attacked Hu Xiang like a storm. Ding Meng also noticed that these origin ability users from the Battle of the Gods were not very strong. For example, this Brother Zhong was probably an intermediate war elder. However, compared to the intermediate war elders from the Federal Empire, his foundation was undoubtedly weaker. However, his martial arts technique was quite dazzling. His flying kicks and chain punches were not only good-looking, but they were also connected very well. The most important thing was that when he attacked, his body flickered with red light, and the layer of flames around his body gradually revealed its power. In his telekinesis vision, the origin ability flames constantly fluctuated. The fluctuations gradually turned into pressure, and the pressure slowly formed an invisible force field that enveloped the two of them. As the frequency of Brother Zhong's punches and kicks increased, the energy in the force field attacked Hu Xiang's shield like knives and swords, causing him to be unable to move. The person who was hit would probably feel very uncomfortable. The effect of this martial arts technique was what the Federal Empire's martial arts techniques lacked. Ding Meng secretly sighed. After so many years of cultivation and Xinguang technology, I thought that I had made great progress. In reality, there are still many things that I need to learn. Xiao Ai said, "Little rascal isn't here. I'm very happy that you have this kind of awareness. Not bad." Chapter 420. Hu Xiang kept getting beaten up, and Gao Sun and the others were also exhausted. Xingkong frowned and said, "It seems like Gao Sun and the others haven't improved much over the years." Jun Ling said quietly, "It's useless. It's just a waste of energy." Xingkong definitely didn't understand. Ding Meng explained, "This group of pirates doesn't have the upper hand. When Gao Sun and the others recover, it will be the other side's turn to be unlucky." Sure enough, Hu Xiang finally stood firm after taking a round of punches. His origin energy was also fully activated. These 20 to 30 punches weren't for nothing. He had roughly figured out the pattern of Brother Zhong's punches, so this time, when Brother Zhong's uppercut came, it was firmly caught by him. Next, he also caught Brother Zhong's left uppercut. Both hands exerted force at the same time, and Brother Zhong was pulled in front of him. Hu Xiang's counterattack was even more simple and crude. He directly slammed his head into Brother Zhong's head. Pring! This was no small matter. Brother Zhong flew out on the spot, slamming into the wall and falling down. Before he could get up, Hu Xiang was already in front of him. He reached out and grabbed his collar, lifting him up. I called you Brother Zhong to give you some face, but you really think you're a big brother? You dare to attack me? After Hu Xiang finished speaking, he slammed his head into Brother Zhong's face. His iron head technique was fierce. The continuous slamming into Brother Zhong's forehead didn't hurt at all. On the other hand, Brother Zhong's face was badly mangled, and the flames on his body dimmed. After a few more collisions, Hu Xiang twisted his hand, and Brother Zhong's huge body was lifted up by him. Hu Xiang then swung his hand, and Brother Zhong was smashed to the ground with a boom. This smash was even more exaggerated. The steel plate on the ground was shaken up like a wave. Brother Zhong was lying on the ground. It looked like he could only breathe out and not breathe in. At this time, Gao Sun's side was slowly turning the situation around. After all, Gao Sun and the others were 3 people. They had a natural advantage in a 3v2 with Qing Long and Horseface. Now that Brother Zhong was down and Hu Xiang joined the battle, the situation was one-sided. Hu Xiang seemed to be very good at grappling and wrestling. In just a few punches and kicks, Qing Long and Horseface fell to the ground and couldn't get up. Professor Yang, your friends don't seem to be that good. Hu Xiang patted the dust off his hands. Yang Wei's face was pale. He knew that Gao Sun was powerful, but Hu Xiang was even more powerful. It didn't take him much effort to defeat Brother Zhong and the other 2. Not to mention that he couldn't fight Hu Xiang. He estimated that he wouldn't be able to last more than a few moves against Xing Jia. Hu Xiang then turned to look at Junling. This is the result of snatching things from me. Did you see it? Junling sneered disdainfully. So what? Hu Xiang said sternly. Give it to me and I'll pretend you didn't say anything. Otherwise, I'll let you sleep on a steel plate too. Junling was just about to raise his hand when he was pulled back by Ding Meng. Ding Meng stepped forward and said, her conditions aren't too excessive. These conditions are just a piece of cake for you. We could have worked together happily, but it seems like you don't intend to end things peacefully? Hu Xiang sneered. Who do you think you are? What right do you have to negotiate with me? How dare you covet the things of our Golden Shield Alliance? Are you tired of living? Ding Meng looked at him calmly and said quietly, the only person who has the right to negotiate with you is me. Hu Xiang sneered, haha, is that so? As he spoke, he walked up casually and reached out to press down on Ding Meng's shoulder. Ding Meng stood still. Hu Xiang's palm exerted force, but unfortunately, Ding Meng still didn't move. Hu Xiang's face changed. He gritted his teeth and said, Kid, do you really want to die? He suddenly squatted down, turned around, twisted his hands, and twisted his body. He tried to carry Ding Meng out by throwing him over his shoulder. Ding Meng just stood there casually. His whole body didn't move at all. Woo! Hu Xiang's face turned red, but he still couldn't carry Ding Meng. In his mind, although Ding Meng was as thin and small as a monkey, when he actually tried to carry him, Ding Meng was like a mountain in front of him. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't move Ding Meng at all. Hu Xiang finally realized that the person in front of him wasn't an idiot. He rolled forward on the ground, stood up again, and assumed a bow position. The light-colored plating on his body was even whiter. Obviously, he was using more origin energy. Ding Meng still didn't move. He just looked at Hu Xiang calmly. Hu Xiang didn't waste any time. He took a step forward, flew up, and rammed into Ding Meng like a cannonball. As he flew up, the white light in the center of his forehead became even brighter. Obviously, he had pushed his origin steel shield to its limit. Crack! Everyone present heard the sound of something shattering. However, what shattered wasn't Ding Meng's bones, but rather Hu Xiang's shield. The moment before Hu Xiang was about to slam into Ding Meng's ribs, Ding Meng simply stretched out his index finger and used his knuckles to lightly tap Hu Xiang's forehead. The shield became as fragile as a glass bottle, and Hu Xiang's entire body became as light as a piece of paper. He was sent flying. Gao Sun, Ming Bang, and Xing Jia were all stunned. The three of them combined could at most tie with Hu Xiang, but Ding Meng could send Hu Xiang flying with just his knuckles. This was no longer a gap, it was a chasm. It was said that people who feared death reacted quickly. 2 seconds later, Gao Sun turned around and fled. There was more than one door to the lounge. There was a small door on the west side, which was the safe passage. Gao Sun arrived at the door like lightning. He was also a light speed user, so he was very confident in his speed. As long as he broke through this door and went to the ground, he would be able to meet up with the main force. No matter how strong you were, how could you be stronger than a fleet? He was very clear about this, so he almost didn't hesitate to put his shoulder in front of him and fly towards the small door. The door was made of plank material, so it could be broken with a light bump. However, the expected scene of the door shattering did not happen. Instead, Gao Sun felt as if he had crashed into an invisible sponge, and all his strength disappeared. When he took a closer look, the door was still closed and hadn't broken. It was as if there was an invisible membrane between him and the door, completely isolating him from the outside world. What's going on? Gao Sun turned his head and found that Hu Xiang was already lying on the ground. There was a short knife in his heart and a short spear in his forehead. Elephant and Junior Leopard were carrying Hu Xiang's body and throwing him into the corner. Ding Meng didn't want to kill Hu Xiang, but it didn't mean that Jun Ling and others would let him go. Although the mother had killed many people of the Moi clan, the culprit was the Golden Shield Alliance. Now that several people in charge were here, it was merciful to not cut Hu Xiang into pieces. Gao Sun was shocked and rushed towards the small door again. This time, he felt it very clearly. There was indeed a membrane in the air between the door and him. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get through. This membrane was invisible, untouchable, unbreakable, and unbreakable, but it existed. What the hell was this? Gao Sun was really scared. He would never have thought that this was psychokinesis vision. When Ding Meng could release microdots, his psychokinesis vision could take the form of a slight substance. That form could only resist the psychokinesis attacks of other fluxers. Now that Ding Meng was already an elementary warlock, his psychokinesis vision could create a psychokinesis wall in a small range. Psychokinesis wall could not only absorb psychokinesis attacks, but it could also change the direction of strings in the air, block the movement of objects, transfer energy, block external signals, and many other effects. When it reached a certain level, even quantum probing couldn't penetrate it. In other words, within the range of the psychokinesis wall, it was Ding Meng's world. Unless you were stronger than him, you wouldn't be able to leave. Therefore, even if the battle on the lighthouse was fierce, the soldiers below wouldn't be able to detect it. Ding Meng had deliberately exposed himself for this reason. If he didn't gather the commanders of the two groups together, it would have been difficult to deal with the current situation. But if he wanted them to gather together, he would have to use something useful to lure them over. As long as he took care of these core leaders, the starships and soldiers below would be easy to deal with. Once they saw that Hu Xiang had been cruelly killed by Elephant and Small Arrow, Ming Bang and Xing Jia came to their senses. They clenched their teeth and took out their weapons. In the current situation, begging for mercy was useless, so they might as well fight. Fighting with their lives on the line was easier said than done, but in reality, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Ming Bang and Xing Jia had just moved when Jun Ling's group of 6 immediately formed an encirclement around them. Regardless of whether you were a warrior or a war senior, the result of being surrounded by Jun Ling's group was usually death. Let alone humans, even monsters several times more powerful than them had been surrounded and killed. There was nothing they could do about it. Jun Ling's group of 6 coordination and tacit understanding were tempered through many years of life and death battles. Perhaps in terms of cultivation, they couldn't be compared to other experts, but in terms of killing ability, they were top-notch. In Gao Sun's field of vision, he saw Jun Ling and Elephant fighting with Ming Bang and Xing Jia, while Junior Leopard and Small Arrow were flying around in between. As for Qin Qin and Lian Li on the periphery, they were standard sneak attack. In less than 5 minutes, Ming Bang and Xing Jia were lying in a pool of blood. This time, Gao Sun was really scared, because Ding Meng was slowly approaching him, but he couldn't move at all. His psychic vision had completely bound his hands and feet, so he couldn't fight back even if he wanted to. Ding Meng had a reason for keeping him alive. This Gao Sun was able to abandon 2 starships and ignore the lives of his companions. People who were afraid of death like him were often timid, and timid people often couldn't make waves. "I'll give you a chance to live, and I hope you cherish it." Ding Meng opened his mouth. "If you want to learn from that person and put on a brave front, I don't need to keep you alive, because this kind of person is useless to me." Gao Sun took a deep breath. "I can take you out of here and to the God War Star Ring." Ding Meng nodded. "You're very smart." Gao Sun couldn't help but be smart. When people were forced into a corner, they would be quick-witted. Once Hu Xiang and the others died, their bodies would be found sooner or later, and the matter here would definitely be exposed. The Golden Shield Alliance's revenge would come sooner or later, and Madison would no longer have peace. What Ding Meng and the others needed was not a mother body, but to leave this place as soon as possible. If they wanted to leave Madison, they couldn't avoid the 8 starships and the pirate ship below. They had to think of a way to cooperate with them from the inside and outside. Gao Sun guessed Ding Meng's intention in a short moment. Chapter 421. A small transport ship slowly descended from the lighthouse and anchored in the middle of the grassland. After the door opened, Ding Meng and the others walked down. Gao Sun was at the back of the group. He waved his hand, and the surrounding soldiers immediately surrounded them, aiming all kinds of guns and cannons at the group. Gao Sun regained his usual dignity and said in a low voice, "These people have already surrendered to us. Send them to the assault ship." The leading adjutant was somewhat puzzled. He walked up and said, "Director Gao, captives are usually held in frigates. Isn't it a bit inappropriate to send them to the main ship?" Gao Sun glared at him. "What do you know? These people are involved in the mission's secret. We need to send them back for interrogation as soon as possible." The adjutant was somewhat embarrassed, but he still braced himself and said, "Director Gao, Director who is still up there. I haven't received his orders to not let outsiders onto the ship." Gao Sun coldly reprimanded, "Director who is still up there discussing the capture of the pirates. These people need to be sent away as soon as possible. Besides, I'm the person in charge of this project. Will you be responsible if something goes wrong?" This time, the adjutant was at his wits' end. He could only give the order in a low voice. "Take these people up." As soon as Ding Meng walked into the connecting cabin, his telekinesis vision quickly spread out inside the starship. He didn't even need to attack these ordinary soldiers. After the connecting cabin was retracted and the door was closed, all the telekinesis dots were directly instilled with parapsychic information. He didn't need to launch any mental attacks, because the brains of ordinary origin ability users couldn't handle such a huge amount of information. Soon, more than 400 people fell unconscious on the ground. The division of labor was clear. Elephant, Little Leopard, Little Arrow, Qin Qin, and Lian Li each disarmed the unconscious soldiers, confiscated their individual communicators, and locked them up in the backup warehouse. Foma Jin and Shui Yu Mountain entered the command hall to take control of the control panel. Sing Kong and Yang Wei assisted them. After all, this assault ship was different from the starships of the Federal Empire. As for Gao Sun, he had already been knocked out by Ding Meng with a slap. After taking care of this, The assault ship quickly rose into the air and whizzed into space with a straight tail of crystal flames behind it. At this moment, the galactic map on the main control panel had been generated. The map of the Golden Shield Alliance was undoubtedly more complete than the one on the Butcher. Other than the star system, planet, cursor position, and predetermined route, this map also had many special markings of different colors. It seemed like this was a map used internally by the Golden Shield Alliance. It could be seen very clearly that if Planet McGrady flew straight to the God Wars starfield, it would first pass through the dark blind spot of Del 403. With the speed of the assault ship, it would take a week to get out of there. We can't fly at this speed. Ding Meng vetoed the route without hesitation. Everyone knew that Gao Sun's lie would not last long. If there was no movement from the lighthouse, the soldiers below would definitely go up to check. This would buy them about 6 hours. After 6 hours, the other 7 starships would probably catch up. They might even send a signal to the headquarters of the Golden Shield Alliance while chasing. Makoto Fuma said, "If we fly in the dark, they won't be able to track us." Not necessarily. Zheng Kang's expression was serious. If they send a signal, the Golden Shield Alliance can send reinforcements to intercept us outside. If their headquarters uses the short-distance space transmission system to fly through space, the reinforcements will arrive outside in less than a week. Furthermore, we can't rule out the possibility of the Golden Shield Alliance's fleets in other starfields. Xing Kong pointed at the map again. "Look at this place. This is the new interstellar spaceport." Ding Meng took a closer look. On the right side of the blind spot, there was a cursor blinking in green and yellow. Xing Kong explained, "This is a third-party interstellar spaceport. It accepts any spaceship as long as you pay enough fees. For the Golden Shield Alliance, green means that this place is safe or friendly. Yellow means neutral. Red means dangerous. Hu Xiang's fleet definitely teleported here from the new spaceport. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to reach Planet McGrady in such a short time." What he meant was that they could not go in this direction because no one could guarantee that there were no fleets of the Golden Shield Alliance in the spaceport. Ding Meng noticed that there was a colorful area directly above the blind spot. There were all kinds of graphics, clues, and cursors. "What's up with this area?" This time, it was Yang Wei who took the initiative to explain. "This is a chaotic area. It's mainly made up of 3 star systems. The various forces in this starfield are very complicated. Most of them are the territories of mercenaries and black market dealers. They have been fighting each other for resources. Under normal circumstances, the major sects would either use their fleets to pass through or take a detour. For a single spaceship like ours, it's very easy for us to be targeted." Ding Meng pondered and said, "We have to use the short-distance space transmission system to fly through space. We can't fly at this speed. It's too risky." Makoto Fuma hesitated. "But opening a space rift will leave behind traces. Even ion detectors will be able to find us. Furthermore, if we keep jumping, this spaceship's energy won't be able to last until we reach the God Wars starfield." Ding Meng said, "Let's fly out of the blind spot first." Xing Kong pointed at the map. On the left side of the chaotic area, there was a large grayish-brown cursor. "Actually, I have a suggestion," Ding Meng said. "Professor, please go ahead." Xing Kong said, "Even Jun Ling might not know this place." Jun Ling was also curious. From the color of the cursor, the Golden Shield Alliance had labeled this place as grayish-brown. This meant that this place did not seem safe either. Xing Kong said, "Professor Yang, you should know where this place is, right?" Yang Wei fiddled with the map and carefully compared the coordinate. Suddenly, he exclaimed, "Xing, are you crazy again? You dare to go to Planet 36 Greenwood?" Xing Kong sighed. "We look safe now, but it's actually very dangerous. The best place to go is Planet 36 Greenwood." Planet 36 Greenwood was a planet at the edge of the Greenwood Galaxy. Although it was located in a remote area, it was fundamentally different from Planet McGrady. This was because this planet, including this galaxy, did not belong to the human world. This planet was occupied by an alien race called the Green Tree Race. Its edge was adjacent to the God War's starfield. This civilization was not known for their technology. Fortunately, they had established a cooperative relationship with the 6 major sects of the God War's alliance. The 6 major sects had built a space station outside of Planet 36 Greenwood. They had also built a factory on the ground and harvested some wood in the area designated by the Green Tree Race. Of course, the 6 major sects had also brought advanced mechanical technology to this ancient civilization. Both sides had a fair trade based on the principle of mutual benefit. In the entire God War's starfield, only the 6 major sects could interact with the Green Tree Race. The Green Tree Race did not care about the other sects or factions. For a faction like the Golden Shield Alliance, if they were arrogant enough to think that force could solve all problems, then forget about the combat ability of the Green Tree Race. It was better to look at the faces of the 6 major sects and see if they would allow them to enter this area. Ding Meng curiously asked, "This is already the era of technology and origin energy. There are energy sources and alloys everywhere, yet the 6 major sects still want to harvest wood. What's so special about this wood?" Xingkong shook his head. "They call this wood green spirit divine wood. It's a mysterious and rare material in the universe. From a biological point of view, the bone materials I'm researching is just a branch of it. The 6 major sects are harvesting wood because they want to study the mysteries within it. For me, compared to Planet McGrady, I'd rather go to Planet 36 Greenwood. That's the place I've always dreamed of." "Ha!" Yang Wei pointed at Xingkong and said, "You brat, you accidentally exposed your true intentions. You wanted to go, didn't you?" Xingkong was silent for a long time before he said unhurriedly, "You're wrong. With the energy of this assault ship, it's impossible to fly to Planet 36. At most, it can only fly to the vicinity of the star field. Even if it has enough energy, this starship has the symbol of the Golden Shield Alliance. If you can't give a reasonable reason to stop there, the fleet of the War of Gods Alliance will directly kill us in outer space." Shuiyu Mountain's eyes flashed. "Then why are you suggesting that we fly there?" Xingkong continued, "After we fly to outer space, we can drive the transport ship there. I just checked, and the transport ship on this starship doesn't have the symbol of the Golden Shield Alliance. It's a nameless ship. The 6 major sects are all righteous sections. Under normal circumstances, they won't open fire on nameless ships that are alone. If we're lucky and are allowed to enter the port, then we'll be saved. At the very least, the pursuers behind us won't dare to fly forward even if they're given 1,000 guts." Yang Wei still didn't believe him. "Xingkong, you're really good at making up excuses." Xingkong let out a long sigh and turned to Ding Meng. "If you want me to explain, I just want to say one thing to you." "Thank you." Ding Meng frowned. "Thank me for what?" Xingkong sighed. "If you hadn't come to Madison, things wouldn't have developed to this point. At the very least, you've attracted Hu Xiang and Gao's son." As he said this, he lowered his head and glanced at the unconscious Gao's son on the ground, his eyes revealing traces of resentment. "You know, I don't have any more wishes in this life. I only ask that you give this person to me. I want him to have a taste of my methods." Ding Meng also understood his pain. His wife and daughter were cruelly murdered and burned. How could this hatred be as simple as killing the other party? Xingkong suddenly took out a black memory chip and threw it to Yang Wei without even thinking about it. "Professor Yang, the mechanical technology and bone armor technology that I've spent my life researching are all in here. Haven't you always wanted them? I'm giving them to you now. I only have one request. When I'm dealing with Gao's son, don't come and disturb me. If you just watch me torture him, I'm afraid you'll throw up." After saying this, he didn't wait for Yang Wei's reaction. He grabbed Gao's son's collar and dragged him up. Without looking back, he walked towards the main passage. Yang Wei was stunned for a moment before he sighed. This guy is really ruthless. He's willing to give away his research results just for revenge. Jun Ling also sighed sadly. She couldn't understand Sing Kang's feelings, but she understood Sing Kang's feelings. She had interacted with Sing Kang the most. Sing Kang's temper was strange. He was usually cold and indifferent to others. That meant that nothing could arouse his interest. He had lived for the sake of waiting for this day to come. Ding Meng also sighed. He turned to Fujin Masa and said, "Let's move. We're flying towards the Greenwood faculty." You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.